Welcome, everyone, to Saturday night's main event. I'm Vince McMahon alongside... Oh, wait a second. That is the wrong show. What's up, guys? It is Saturday night's Greg event. That's what we're here to do tonight. Welcome to Podcast Saturday. We're doing an evening time podcast tonight because I've got the weekend off. So I thought it would be fun to come up here and do more of a prime time type of podcast, give ourselves way more time to talk about everything and allow you guys to interact and ask questions and whatnot. So this should be a real fun podcast because we got a ton of stuff to talk about. It was a very, very busy news week and wrestling week. And we had some big returns, and we've got some major news heading into two big pay-per-views coming up in a couple of weeks, and lots of ground to cover tonight. Currently, I've got AEW Collision going on right now. We are going to be going head-to-head with them for about the next 45 minutes, as they are live tonight in the 2300 Arena. So they did not tape this on Wednesday, and I've only caught a little bit of the show and haven't caught any results. But Jamie Hayter and Tony Storm are in the ring together right now. So if you are watching Collision, thanks for kind of watching both, and I hope you're enjoying the show. One thing we're not going to talk much about tonight is what's happening on Collision, because with all of my notes and all the preparation I've been doing today, I haven't really been watching Collision. So you guys are going to have to fill me in on what we saw tonight, and we'll try to hit up the results of this or discuss any of the pertinent information maybe on Monday night when we're here for the Raw review. But tonight is a big one, Saturday night's Greg event. We are undergoing a podcast change here. Like I mentioned over the past couple of weeks, I'm going to try to do as many Saturday evening podcasts as I can, but this won't happen every week. So whenever we do a daytime podcast, it'll be the standard wingy. And whenever we do a nighttime podcast on Saturdays, we're going to do Saturday night's Greg event, go live at 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific, and allow ourselves plenty of time to talk about everything that we're going to talk about. So we decided to do that tonight because I've got the night off because I turn 48 years old today. Not really a milestone. I didn't really mention much about my birthday, but we are here on my birthday to do another live stream. I mean, it fell on a Saturday. It fell on a podcast day. I've got all my dinner plans and birthday plans tomorrow with my family. So let's do a podcast tonight because, man, after last night and after the triumphant return of AJ Lee, we've got some stuff to talk about, and it's going to pretty much encompass everything that we missed all week long. Also, something that I want to incorporate into these podcasts whenever we do them at night is I want you guys, specifically the members, to be able to ask questions or ask me to talk about or discuss a topic or a news story that I might normally overlook, that I don't think is, important enough to discuss on the podcast or whatever. If you want my thoughts or my take on anything, weekly, whenever we do these nighttime podcasts, I'll put a post up in the community tab for the members for them to ask any questions that they want. And then after that, I'll put one up for the general subscribers as well. But for the first week, I just limited it to the channel members. So I do have a few questions we'll answer later. Also, of course, super chats are open tonight. So anything you send through, I will be reading as well. So if you have questions, you can send them here. And anybody else that wants to ask anything in the chat, you can do that, and we'll get to it as we go through here. I'm going to try to give you guys a general idea of what's going to be on the menu for tonight. Obviously, we're going to start with the big return of AJ Lee last night on Smackdown, along with Brock Lesnar showing up and interrupting a John Cena match and making the John Cena and Brock Lesnar match at Wrestlepalooza official. So we'll kind of detail all of Smackdown. We'll open with that. We're also going to talk about the rest of Cena's dates that he has left, only about 6 or 7 dates left, and his final match will not be in Boston. It's going to be in DC. We'll talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about Tony Khan moving the All Out start time to get themselves away from Wrestlepalooza, and All Out will begin streaming. Will begin the pay-per-view streaming on Max as well for a discounted price. We will get into that. We're going to talk about AJ Styles and his contract. We're going to discuss some low wrestling ratings that we've seen across the board this week that's a little bit eyebrow-raising, but at the same time, it's also football season, so lots of excuses out there, but it's still something that I think we want to mention. Chris Jericho was finally asked about his possible return to WWE, and he gave some comments on that. We'll discuss that. Also, The Rock, you guys catch that picture of him, that body transformation that he's gone through? Also, he received a standing O at the Venice Film Festival during the premiere of the Fighting Machine, so we'll talk a little bit about that. We've got some Wade Barrett and Nikki Bella drama to get into. We're going to talk about the latest train wreck that is known as Matt Riddle's life. Also, congratulations to MJF and Alicia Atu, who got married, I believe, yesterday. We're going to talk about Taz's 2300 Arena tribute. We've got WWE and AEW commentary team news, as well as a brief recap of last night's Smackdown, last week's Raw, last week's Dynamite, and of course, anything on Collision that we can discuss, we will as well. We'll also talk about the cards currently as they stand for Wrestlepalooza and AEW All Out. And other than that, we'll just talk about a lot of general stuff. And anything you guys want to mention as we go through, please say so in the chat. And it should be a fun one tonight. Right on. Well, let me kind of reset here and say hello to everybody that is here hanging out already, waiting in the chat. Happy Saturday night to you. Thank you so much for being here. I really like all these Saturday podcasts that we're hopefully going to get to do, although I may have jumped the gun just a little bit. It looks like I'm not going to be able to be off as many of these as I thought originally, but I'm definitely going to be able to take some Saturdays off here in the next several months during, fall and winter months, and we'll try to be up here as much as possible. But I was thinking we would be up here like 90% of the time at night, but it's probably going to be more like 50-50-ish. I'm still kind of working all that out with work and whatnot. But whenever we're here at night, it will be this, and whenever we're here during the day, it'll be that 5:30 Eastern at 2:30 Pacific start time for the Wingy. So just keep that in mind going forward on Saturdays. And I will always let you guys know way ahead of time during the week which one we are going to be doing for that Saturday. So I want to thank everybody who is here. Let me cruise over to the chat real quick and say hello to everybody. It is still quite warm out. I've got my fan blowing on me, but I'm kind of sweating already, which is kind of nuts. But the sun is about to go down here in California, so I'll be feeling good in a minute. It is good to see. Let me remove my pinned message from earlier. Let me unpin that so I can see everybody. We've got Melissa and Zane G. Garrett Osborne is in the house. Tatanani is here. We got Gilbert Arballo, Red Raven Rucker. We have Mike Rouse. We got Rodrigo. We've got Colin Wright in here as well. Good to see Ben Espinoza, Max Pokebra. I agree, man. We just don't need Brock. No, we don't. David Brown, Denny Downbad is in the house. Sonic Plays is here. So is Daniel Barry Sports. We've got Jacob A. We've got William. We've got Zach. What up, bro? Fruity Chicken Tenders. Fruity Chicken Tenders is here. James Kowalski in the house as well. Adrian Grant. Good to see you. Also, Ajax Johnson, the new one. Steve Jacobson. Sean Garner. Thanks for all the birthday wishes, guys. I appreciate that. 10, Rowdy Too Good, as well, is in the house. And Zach Goller. What's up, bro? You ready for Survivor Series? Man, it's creeping up. It's going to be here before we know it. But thanks for the 5. Feels like the Vision will be involved in both War Games matches. Punk, Seth, AJ, and Becky all captaining teams. Yeah, it's possible. I'd like to know where John Cena fits into that, because I do believe he is advertised for Survivor Series. So maybe he'll just get a nice one-on-one match, and he's probably going to have a return match with Brock. I feel like 2 of his final appearances are going to be Brock matches, one at Wrestlepalooza, and the other one either in Perth or in his final match in December. Yeah, but in terms of War Games, I mean, obviously the way it's going, it's going to be Punk and a crew versus the Vision. But, is it going to be just the typical crew? Is it just going to be Punk and LA Knight and the Usos or something? Or can we have a little bit more fun with this? What if it's CM Punk, Roman Reigns, and John Cena and one other megastar against those guys, and they lose to them? The babyfaces put over the Vision. You never know. And then maybe Punk goes on to beat Seth Rollins for the championship at some point. Don't really know when, but the Vision is going to have to be involved, right, in a War Games match, I would assume, at War Games, because if they don't, I don't know what else they're going to do. It better not be the MFTs. My God. Right on. Okay, is there something wrong with my volume? Were we all good? What are you talking about, Mike, on the volume? Dude, I don't care what Denise is doing. Denise can do Denise.
Right on. Okay, is there something wrong with my volume?
She got a loud voice, though, so I see what you're saying. I'll try not to scream into the microphone if I can. What's up, Isaac? Good to see you. You were in attendance for Smackdown last night. Hope we were loud enough. Yeah, you were. I had to work last night, but I kept my eye on my phone all night because it was obvious that AJ Lee was going to come back. Plus, it's in Chicago. It's in that building. What's it called these days? The Rosemont Horizon? Is it the Allstate Arena? What the fuck is it? But whatever the Rosemont Horizon is called now, that building is always jacked, and there's a lot of history in that building with not only CM Punk, but also John Cena, who had his last Smackdown last night, and that was the very building that he debuted and slapped Kurt Angle in the face, was it not? Also the building where Money in the Bank was when CM Punk won the title and left the company for 14 days or 13 days, whatever it is. Out comes Kyle Fletcher, by the way, on Collision. We are going to be talking about Dynamite later on, and it does look like Fletcher is going to be the one to challenge Hangman Page at this juncture based on what they did on Dynamite. And what they may say here as Callis, Fletcher, and Josh Alexander are making their way to the ring. Maybe this is where the official challenge is made for All Out, I guess, but it's looking like that's going to be the match. All right, well, that does it for all the pleasantries and the happiness there. Let's start getting into what's on our agenda. Now, I do have some water, but I also, because it's a special day, I did crack open a nice cold one, but I don't think I'm going to be drinking too much of this because I'm going to be talking a lot. It's only on those watch-alongs where I can have a couple sips of the sauce, you know? But I'll probably limit to mostly water tonight. And right on. All right, well, let me get myself situated, and I'm going to look and see what our first order of business is. Actually, I know what our first order of business is. It's going to be, what the hell am I going to be doing over the next couple of days on this channel? Well, since we're doing this podcast tonight, I've got birthday dinner plans and stuff with my family tomorrow. So, unfortunately, no classic watch-along tomorrow night. I'm really sorry about that. But we will be back 1 week for tomorrow, and it'll be back to normal because the previous two Sundays, we've had pay-per-views. We had Forbidden Door, and then we had Clash in Paris. So we came up later on in the night on both of those Sundays and watched really, really quick shows. We watched Clash of Champions when the Shockmaster debuted, and we also watched In Your House Mind Games. And to make up for Sunday, I also found myself at home with some extra time Thursday night, this past Thursday night. And so about 2 hours before we went live, I decided we would do an impromptu stream. So anybody that missed it, I'm sorry about that, but we came up here last minute and we did a watch-along of the first ever WCW Nitro. Thursday was the 30th anniversary of the first ever Nitro from the Mall of America in Minneapolis, Minnesota, when Lex Luger jumped ship and came to WCW from WWE. And I thought it would be fun to watch that show and then stick around and review it and discuss some of the things that were going on, I should say, during that time. And I was just 2 days away from my 18th birthday. So if you didn't see that watch along and recap on Thursday, you can check it out on demand right now. I tried to do something this week to kind of make up for the fact that we're not going to be here for a watch along tomorrow. But we're going to be here Monday night after Raw because we got to see what the follow-up is with the AJ Lee and Becky Lynch and CM Punk and Seth Rollins stuff, and I'm sure that is where the match for Wrestlepalooza will be made official, will probably be this Monday night. So we will be here after Raw to do a review because the last couple of Raws have been overseas. They've had like noon start times, and I'm busy on Mondays. I got to go to the hospital every Monday and get blood taken and all that stuff, and I just got too much going on. So we haven't been here for a review over the past couple of Mondays either, so we will get back to business Monday night after Raw. Join us. So that's what's on the schedule for the next couple of days. Let's get into what the biggest story of the week by far is, and that is the return of AJ Lee to the WWE. Now, as we saw, this was all set up at Clash in Paris when Becky Lynch was the one to low blow and screw CM Punk, allowing Seth Rollins to retain his championship in that fatal four-way. During the review that day, I brought up AJ Lee, and a lot of people were like, she's retired, she's not coming back. And I'm like, okay, then answer me this. Why did they go through with that whole angle at the beginning of the show to ban Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed? If Becky Lynch comes in to help Seth Rollins after the two haven't really been, even though everyone knows they're married, they haven't really been associated on camera in quite some time. So for her to be the one to screw Punk, how is that not screaming AJ Lee to you? They wouldn't do that if AJ Lee wasn't coming back, because all that would do is get the fans talking about AJ Lee and potentially disappoint them. Even last night, people were like, what if it's Bianca Belair or Rhea Ripley? I'm like, it's not going to be. We know it's going to be AJ Lee. I mean, hell, even WWE Shop spoiled it. But after Clash in Paris, that really raised an eyebrow, especially with me. And I don't care what AJ said or if she said she's retired or not. I think it would be awfully foolish for WWE to do that if they have no plans of bringing AJ Lee back. They would just have somebody else help Seth Rollins win. And like his own stablemates, just don't do the deal where they're banned from the arena in the opening match and then they can come out and help out and Rollins steals yet another victory. That's the finish you would do if AJ Lee wasn't coming back. But the fact that Becky was the husband of Seth Rollins to screw CM Punk, it stands to reason that the wife of CM Punk will come back to help him out. And then they set that up pretty much on Raw with Becky and Punk in the ring, and Becky just slapping the ever-loving shit out of Punk. And it was kind of sad because he just kind of walked away. He's not gonna GTS Becky. Would have been kind of funny if he did, but he's not gonna do that. So he walks away, almost like licking his wounds, and then just kind of turns around and says, "You're gonna regret putting your hands on me." And that's all it took. That one line from CM Punk, "You're gonna regret hitting me." We knew. I mean, the ovation, the pop that received, that one line in Paris last Monday, was quite incredible. So when Becky was slapping Punk in the ring, Rollins was also like in the entranceway watching and laughing his ass off at all this. So when Punk leaves with his slapped face, he goes back to try to find Seth Rollins, and he finds Adam Pearce instead, and he goes, "Where is he? Where is he? Where is he?" And Pearce is like, "He's gone from the building, dude. But the good thing is you know where he works. Why don't you just come back next Monday and you guys can hash it out then or whatever." And Punk says, "Where's Smackdown on Friday?" I'm surprised Punk doesn't already know this. If I was Punk's employer, I would expect him to know this information. But Punk says, "Where is Smackdown on Friday?" And Pearce goes, "It's in Chicago." And there you go. And then, if that weren't enough, we go all week long with the fans speculating, "Oh, it's a done deal. AJ Lee is coming back. We all know that." And then WWE goes one farther yesterday, prior to SmackDown, and announcing that Becky Lynch will close the show. So it's one of those things where it's a terribly kept secret, but it doesn't really stop and it doesn't really change, I should say, the awesomeness of it. And a lot of fans were complaining throughout the week because Fightful Select, I think, had a report up that they had heard that AJ Lee is indeed coming back, and then it was spread out all over wrestling media, and a lot of people are talking about AJ Lee's return. And a lot of fans, of course, I understand it kind of, but you also got to understand like what year you're living in now. And they're like, why can't we just not be spoiled? Why can't we just be surprised for once? It's a different era. This is the new surprise, because CM Punk's return to AEW, we knew. AJ Lee's return, we knew. There have been other returns. The Chris Jericho one in 2007, and there's been the Jericho debut in WWE in 99. 26 years ago, we knew it was going to be him. So you should be used to this type of stuff by now. I understand you would like to be surprised in theory, but in terms of your excitement level and whatnot, if it's the right type of return and it's the right type of person, you don't need to make it a surprise. I kind of like those worst kept type of secrets. With AEW, they never once mentioned CM Punk's name, but everybody in that fucking building in the United Center knew it was going to be him. And same thing with AJ Lee. We knew it was going to be her. They set that up. And so the fans that were complaining about just wanting to be surprised, can you not watch? Like, you don't need the internet to tell you that AJ Lee is coming back. You don't need Fightful or Dave or PW Insider or any of these other outfits to tell you that AJ Lee is going to come back. You need your own eyes and your own ears and your own brain. And you need to watch what's been happening on television over the past couple of days. And you should be able to light bulb go off, decide for yourself, or come to the conclusion yourself that, oh yeah, AJ Lee is coming back for sure. They wouldn't have Becky out there, all this stuff. They're leaning so far into it. And then I think, is it the Wrestling Days guy on Twitter? Somebody had tagged WWE Shop. This was like on Wednesday or Thursday, and asked them if they were going to have any AJ Lee merchandise. And then I think it's like an AI bot type of generated response that the WWE Shop account uses. But it responds, yes, in light of AJ Lee's return, we're going to be releasing some shit. So even WWE's website, their own company, have, quote unquote, spoiled the return. But was it really spoiled? I think fans have a hard time. And it's funny because the younger ones are the ones that have lived in this age. So if you're young and you're complaining about being spoiled, I'm not quite sure how to respond to that, because you're not old enough to remember when we used to not get spoiled. I am. Some of you are. There were plenty of times where things have happened. Well, holy shit, you didn't see that coming. But even as far back as 30 years ago, we talked about this on Sunday night. I was 17 years old. And I knew that Luger was going to WCW before he showed up on Nitro. It was already out there. It was on the hotlines. There was something fishy going on in WWE. He wasn't around. And I remember hearing the quote that some believe Luger is already in WCW. And this was before SummerSlam. And then Luger was at SummerSlam. And they're like, oh, maybe he's not jumping there. And then he shows up on Nitro after all. Even with Hall and Nash, we knew they were going to show up on Nitro any moment. After Good Friends, Better Enemies, once you read what happened on that curtain call MSG show, you knew it was going to be a matter of moments until they arrived in WCW, and then they did. So even when Scott Hall coming out in his denim outfit there and cutting his promo, kickstarting what turned out to be a pretty industry-changing angle and situation there with the NWO, it was still kind of known. You just didn't know exactly when he was going to show up, but he did. So when it comes to being spoiled, this is one of those situations where it didn't bother me at all. I'm sure there are some cases where you say to yourself as a fan, oh man, I wish I didn't get spoiled on that, because that would have been awesome. Certainly. I totally understand that. I have those moments. But overall, in general, this is the era that we are in now. If you don't want to be spoiled, you need to throw your fucking phone in a wood chipper and then just go live in the forest. Sell all your belongings, go live in the trees, because that's the only way you are not going to be spoiled by stuff. You pull up your social media, you don't have to follow these accounts, you're going to see it anyway. You're going to see people talking about it. That's where we're at. And guess what? It's not going to get any better. It's probably going to get worse. So it's going to be really, really hard to give us a full-blown surprise. And when WWE does, they try to keep it, somewhat tight-lipped. But even the Seth Rollins injury, we all knew that was a possibility. When he dropped his crutches, 70 or 80% of us knew that there was a possibility that he was not injured. We talked about it week after week after week. Keep your eye out. He might be fibbing. He might be faking. CM Punk, 2 years ago at Survivor Series. My reaction is online. And at the end of that War Games match, I was saying, I guess he's not coming. I guess he's not coming. And then he comes. So even that moment, as shocking as it was, we knew that it was at least a possibility. So when it's the right return, it doesn't matter if you know or not. I liked that they let you know on Monday night. To me, they let us know at Clash in Paris when Becky interfered. But Monday night was pretty much your confirmation that Punk was bringing some serious backup with him. And then they weren't hiding anything on Friday night. They booked Becky Lynch and pre-advertised her to close the show. Of course she's going to come back. So where's this complaining coming from? It was just weird. So all week long, people were complaining about being spoiled, but then WWE went ahead and spoiled it for you anyway. But I don't even think this qualifies as a spoiler, because this was one of those returns where they were telling you without telling you what was going to happen. All you have to do is pay attention, and you're going to understand the same thing that everybody else understands, and that AJ Lee is going to be coming back. So you fast forward now to last night on SmackDown. We're going to talk about just the key points of SmackDown here. Pretty much two things, AJ's return and Cena and Brock. But Becky comes out to the ring to close the show last night, and Punk winds up coming out to confront her, and Becky starts pulling the same shit that she did on Monday, talking that mad shit. By the way, Rollins is up in the crowd there watching, and Becky shits on all the Chicago teams, although does leave out the Chicago Bears. And, Punk, I don't know if Punk is a big football fan, but he's a big Chicago fan. He's a big Blackhawks fan. He threw out the first pitch at the Cubs game a couple days ago. So he's Chicago through and through, and I would assume him and Seth Rollins have a common, something in common there with their love of the Chicago Bears. But Becky kind of pumped the brakes a bit on the Chicago Bears insults, but she was still trying her damnedest to get this crowd to boo her, and they did. And then Punk comes out, she's talking all that shit to him, and she starts slapping the hell out of him again. This is, twice in 5 days that he's getting absolutely paintbrushed here by the man, and he backs off. He lets her smack him around, and he gets out of the ring, and you know what's coming, and he gets on the mic and he says, "I would never hit a lady, but I've brought someone with me who will." And then what do we get? A little 4-second gap, and then let's light it up. And out comes AJ Lee. Jesus Christ. I mean, obviously, it's Chicago. Chicago's a little different, and they're a little bit more lively, and you get some crazy pops in Chicago. But I don't think it would have mattered what city she was in. I think she was in the best city for this return, but I think no matter what city in America she was in, she would have gotten a massive pop. But I think it was maximized in Chicago. And when that music hit, Jesus, I mean, it's a Road Warrior pop. It's a Stone Cold Steve Austin pop. Fans have not seen AJ Lee in 10 years. And she comes out. She looks great. She's still got those killer abs. Barely looks any older at all, even though she's probably, in her late 30s now. Takes a minute, kind of leans over, looks at Becky, and then slowly starts to skip. And it was such a slow kind of transition into her skipping that I just really loved. And she's wearing the same shit she had on when we last saw her back in 2015 or whenever it was. Skips around the ring, gets in the ring, attacks Becky Lynch, beats the hell out of her. Becky retreats, and she leaves her title behind. And AJ Lee picks up the title and dances around the ring with the championship, and she's celebrating with CM Punk. She even comes back in to do an encore and skip around the ring. You got CM Punk, her husband, out there jumping around like a fucking ballerina. It was awesome. It was so cool to see CM Punk just so elated, over his wife being back, and they're now together, working together. Now they're coworkers, and holy shit, when Punk had just said something to the effect of, "Oh, we'd kill each other if we worked together, so let's hope their marriage stays intact." But I think it will. They've been together all these years, and AJ Lee hasn't become fed up with the way Punk can be. I think they're going to be fine. I think they're together forever. So, AJ Lee comes back, and just to watch the fans so happy about that really warmed my heart. I give a lot of shit sometimes to the younger fans, but I saw a lot of the same stuff on social media all week, and it blew my mind to read this, but that's because I'm stupid and I don't realize that these years just keep going by. But AJ Lee being gone for 10 years doesn't even sound right. I still view AJ Lee in like the wrestling portion of my brain. I think it's the back right chunk of my brain that I think houses my wrestling memories. It takes about 60% of my brain up, and the rest is like memories and math and knowing how to read and stuff. But the other 60% is wrestling. And AJ's back there, and I still look at her as like a newer type of wrestler, some like a modern wrestler, even though she's been retired for a decade. It doesn't seem like that long ago to me. And, when you think about the fans, I'm 48 years old. I think about a 22-year-old who was 12. If you're a 22-year-old girl, you were 12 when AJ Lee was last in the ring. And I saw a lot of tweets from women that said things to the effect of, "I grew up on AJ Lee. I was so sad when she retired. I've been praying for this day." And I'm just like, God, you grew up on AJ Lee. The fact that 2014 is considered back in the day to some fans is just mind-blowing. Back in the day for me is 1983, and to fans it's like back in the day is 2014. It's just crazy. I'm like, growing up on AJ Lee, that's just a wild sentence. I grew up on superstar Billy Graham. They grew up on AJ Lee. Just a enormous generation gap. But the happiness that I saw in those fans, especially the women, because if you remember AJ Lee, when she started coming in, what was that video they kept playing? That video of her crying when she met Lita, and now you have a lot of younger women coming through the NXT system or might even be on the main roster now, somebody like Tiffany Stratton or anybody else who's just super young. They idolized AJ Lee, and now they're there, And I just kind of like how that cycle keeps going. AJ was one of the first type of wrestlers or women, there was more before her, but she was kind of one of the first, you see it way more now, who have these type of moments that you get to see videos of them meeting their favorite Attitude Era stars and breaking down, and then they, become wrestlers. That next generation, there's a whole generation of girls out there now that looked up to AJ Lee, might have looked up to Charlotte, Becky, Mercedes, and Bailey. who are now coming through, and all those women, used to look up to others, and it's kind of nice to see that cycle continuing. And now AJ, who was in the position of being that starstruck fan who met her hero, is now sharing a locker room with a lot of women who view her the way she viewed Lita. And I think that's nothing but good for pro wrestling, especially for women's wrestling. And it's just great to see her back. AJ Lee was a standout during an era that I absolutely hated and despised with all my... I was doing commentaries and shit. Like, how the hell was I... If I wasn't doing this YouTube channel, I would not have been able to watch that shit. It's garbage. 2010 through 2019 can suck my taint. Very few bright spots in there. A few here or there, some good pay-per-views, good matches, memorable moments, streaks breaking, things like that. But overall, that is just a dog shit time period that I don't look back fondly at all. And one of the things I look back on least fondly is the women's division, or the Divas division, during that time. You had your Beth Phoenixes and you had a couple other ones in there, but overall, that Divas division was a fucking joke. It was hot chicks in bikinis beating each other with pillows, and it wasn't taken seriously. And AJ Lee, more so than the Bellas, more so than the Four Horsewomen, she, I think, is really credited with getting, with moving away from the Divas era into women's pro wrestling, and she was a major, major component of that transition. You remove her out of that, it's going to take us longer to get there. And then, of course, after AJ Lee, we had Paige, who kind of came in and took the reins. After Paige, we had the Four Horsewomen, right? And since then, it's been pretty damn solid. The Divas Championship was shit-canned. It's now the WWE Women's Championship. They now have two of them. And the women are looked at as wrestlers again. And now they're athletes. And now they're starting to recruit women similar to how they recruit men. Obviously, all the women they still recruit are drop-dead fucking gorgeous, but now they're actually athletes. They just don't look good in a bikini. They do, but they're also good at wrestling. And, like the Bellas, we're going to talk about Nikki Bella in a minute, and I really grew to respect Nikki Bella near the end of her run because I saw vast physical improvements in her in the ring. And I'm like, that's all I ask for. The fact that you improved and you've actually had some matches that I didn't think completely sucked, to me, that's a win. And I was proud of her. But how did they come in? We've seen that first Diva Search video of the two Bella twins with their matching pink itsy bitsy bikinis. That's why they were hired. Look at them. That 0 to 10 hotness scale? They're 24s, so of course they're going to get hired. And a lot of women got hired because of that. So when you did find one that could break out of that shell of not just being a hot model, but somebody who could wrestle, I always appreciate that. That's why still to this day, Trish Stratus goes down as my favorite women's wrestler of all time, because I was proud of her. Really proud of her. I saw Trish in them fitness magazines before she even got signed by WWE. And they brought her in, and she's laying on table with lingerie, trying to seduce Bubba Dudley and doing all this sexy shit. But once she got in the ring, and then got in the ring some more, and then started improving, you realize what a damn fine fucking worker that woman was. And those were few and far between. You only had so many Trishes, The other ones, as much as I adore with every inch of my heart, Stacy Keibler and Tori Wilson, physically, there was nothing they were going to offer in the ring. And a lot of women at that time were like that. And AJ Lee, I think, marks and signifies the true beginning of that transition. And I'm not saying the business wouldn't have transitioned without her, but without her, I think it would, at the very least, taken a lot longer to get where we are now. And some of the women that were showcased early on after AJ Lee had gone might not have gotten on the map. So she is a big part of why women's wrestling doesn't suck anymore in the WWE. And you could make an argument that, that goes beyond WWE as well. So I'll always acknowledge the legacy, I guess, that AJ Lee left behind. And now she's coming back. And now she is back. As a matter of fact, she signed her contract backstage with Triple H. I think they showed the video of that on social media of her back there with Triple H signing her contract. And now she's back in the company, and she's on the same exact show that Brock Lesnar was on. And this is a woman who has always been an advocate for equal pay for women and women's rights, especially in wrestling. And I would assume and imagine that a lot of stuff in that Vince McMahon lawsuit absolutely disgusts her. So there's the question there. I can't believe she's going back to work for these motherfuckers, but that's her business. That's her and CM Punk's business. There's a lot of money at stake here. And the fact that CM Punk has such a solid relationship with Triple H, at least on the surface, when politically they don't align at all. They think they're probably polar opposites. Triple H sat behind Linda McMahon while she actively tried to defund education. And I'm surprised that this sits well with them, but at the same time, I'm not a fan of Triple H or WWE's politics either, but if they put a contract for $20 million in front of me, I might be signing my name to the dotted line as well, and just playing cool for the cameras and in front of Triple H's face. I'm going to be all about him, but secretly I'm going to hate his fucking guts. Maybe that's what's going on there. I don't know, but in the grand scheme of being a wrestling fan, I feel like that's almost unimportant. I bring it up now because WWE is so open with their just disgusting political stances and whatnot. If they kept it themselves and kept them quiet, then I don't think anybody would give a shit. But the fact that they're so outward about it and they're apologists for, rapists and sex abusers and sex traffickers and none of that seems to matter to them. I'm just glad I don't have to be faced with this moral dilemma of, signing away, my life or getting in bed with the devil or anything like that. That's Punk's business. That's AJ Lee's business. Our business is try to enjoy, what they're doing. And AJ Lee, she's not in for a one-off. They're not just bringing her in as an attraction to combat All Out. She signed a contract. She's back. Now, I don't know how long it's for. I would assume it's maybe 2-3 years, 3 to 5 years, something like that. But she's going to be back at least for one contract in WWE, and I don't know if hers is going to be aligned with Punk's. Last time she had to stick around, right? How long was she there after Punk left? I saw clips of her today from 2000. Was she really there a year after he bounced? She was even there after the Colt Cabana podcast? She was still hanging around? And then finally, I don't know if she was released or her contract was up or whatever was going on, but then, I think, was she still working for them? That's the question I have for you because I don't remember. Was she still working there when they got married? Was she working for the company on the day that CM Punk received his release papers? I think she was because I think that was before the podcast, the Cabana podcast. So there's been a long, amount of years here, nearly a decade for cooler heads to prevail and everybody just, put it all behind them and whatnot. So I'm glad that, WWE seems happy to have her. The fans are ecstatic that she's back. She seems happy to be there. Punk seems happy to be there. So good for them. And I'm sure on Monday night, we will get the confirmation of the mixed tag at Wrestlepalooza between Becky and Seth and AJ Lee and CM Punk. Welcome back to the WWE, AJ Lee. Hell yeah. Okay, thank you for that. She left in April of 2015, so she was there. That had to be awkward. After Punk went off on them in that podcast, she has to go to work there? As the wife of him? That is crazy. That is crazy. But it was great to see her back, and the way she was dancing around with that Intercontinental Championship, I'm thinking that she's going to win that. I mean, what's going to happen? Are Punk and AJ going to beat Seth and Becky at Wrestlepalooza, and then AJ Lee is also going to win the Intercontinental title from Becky Lynch? Is that really going to happen? I don't know. But the way she was dancing around with the title last night on Smackdown, even looking at Punk after, and she said something like, "Can I keep it? Or can I take it home?" And he goes, "Yeah, sure, you're the champion now." So she might have, I think it would have been great if she would have put that in the refrigerator. Maybe she did. Did AJ Lee on her social media post a picture of the Intercontinental Championship in her refrigerator? Because if she did, that would be pretty awesome. Yeah, welcome back, AJ Lee. I'm blown away by how over she was. That pop last night, my God. And it's not like she's not some nostalgia act either. She was over when she was there. Fans have legitimately and genuinely always liked AJ Lee because sometimes fans will pop for a return. any return. Somebody we haven't seen in a while, they'll go ape shit for. But then once they're back, it's like, okay, that fades. I don't think it's going to fade with AJ Lee. I think fans genuinely love her, and she's really going to tap into that nostalgia that a lot of fans probably in their early 20s are going through right now, because when they were young and 12, 13, 11, whatever, AJ Lee being one of their favorites, those are the fans I was thinking about most last night. Those fans who might be 21, 22, 23. They were probably pretty inspired by the career of AJ Lee. So, welcome back to the company, AJ Lee. Should be interesting with her back there and Brock back there. And I don't know. Don't get locked in a room with him. That's all I'm asking. That's all I'm saying. Speaking of Brock, he made his presence known on SmackDown last night as well, because we had John Cena opening up SmackDown last night to cut a promo. And he was interrupted by the new United States champion, Sami Zayn, who heard some boos last night on SmackDown, by the way. I don't know what that's about. I know not everybody is a big fan of Sami. I already see a lot of he's being forced and all that shit. So it takes literally nothing to trigger fans into thinking somebody's being forced, even when they're not. But Sami can be his character can be a little bit insufferable at times, and he's not my absolute favorite, but I certainly love him as a babyface. And I was really hoping that next year will be a big year for him, winning the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia and then going to WrestleMania to win the championship. But if fans turn on him, it's going to have to either be reworked or he's going to have to do all this shit as a heel. I don't know. But in Chicago, he got booed pretty heavily. We will see if that sticks or not in other cities. We've been hearing boos for Cody Rhodes lately. But Sami, just to be booed randomly, I don't know. But he came out, and this was really cool because Sami Zayn pretty much made his debut in WWE during a John Cena United States Open challenge. And this was back 10 years ago, right, in 2015. And so now Sami is the champion. He comes out to the ring, and he asks Cena's permission to use the open challenge concept. And I like that. I'm not a fan of just like open challenges, for the sake of just because they're lazy, but if there's an actual reason to do them, then hell yeah, I'm all about an open challenge. And Cena's was really fun back in 2015. I got that year right? Was it 2015? So now Sami's out. He wants to take over the open challenge, and he wants to wrestle John Cena. And Cena's like, cool. So when Cena only has 7 dates left or whatever it is, he wrestles an impromptu match. That's kind of cool. So it's Sami versus John Cena for the United States Championship, just like it was back in 2015. Now, in that match, if you remember, Bret Hart was out there for that. Was it in Montreal? Because I think Bret was out there, and he introduced Sami Zayn, who came out to the ring, and I think he's over by the ring steps, right, if I remember that, and he just starts flailing his arms, and he immediately was like, oh, and he threw his shoulder out, dislocated his shoulder or something, and immediately had to get up in the ring. And whenever I watch that clip, I just wonder like what Sami must have been thinking and how he's like, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And I remember he said something to Bret. I think he told Bret, like, go let John Cena know I'm hurt. And he wound up wrestling the entire match with that busted shoulder. And after that match, after he lost, he was gone. He had to go get surgery, I think, right? And he was gone for a while. So that was like a devastating debut and such a random freak thing of him just, being excited or whatnot. And he threw his shoulder out. So the fact that they're full circle here after all these years, I loved that. John Cena versus Sami Zayn for the championship on SmackDown. Unfortunately, we don't get a winner. This ends in a no contest when the Beast, Brock Lesnar, shows up. He F5s both guys, leaves them both laying in the ring, and as he's leaving, he says something into the camera, hey, John, I'll see you at Wrestlepalooza. So John Cena and Brock Lesnar is now official for Wrestlepalooza, as we figured it would be, and Brock Lesnar is now back. He returned at SummerSlam, and now he's back on SmackDown, wipes out John Cena and Sami Zayn in what would be Friday night was John Cena's final ever SmackDown. And it was spoiled by Brock Lesnar. He had a great match with Sami Zayn. pulling out some of his old rivals' favorite hits. My favorite was the spear. And he was doing not a Roman Reigns spear, Michael Cole, but he was doing an Edge spear, tributing Edge. And then he hits Sammy with a spear, and Michael Cole says, tributing one of his great rivals, Roman Reigns. I'd like to give Michael Cole the benefit of the doubt that he maybe didn't see the whole thing or whatever, but no, I feel like they just felt like they couldn't mention Edge for whatever reason, and he then mentioned Roman. It just gives off Mike Johnson vibes. Yeah, Trump is an FBI informant. How can you be an FBI informant for a hoax? I don't know. Sometimes just the blatant and like, are you fucking kidding me lies that can come out of a commentator's mouth? It's just like, what the fuck is this? Politics? Jesus, man. It's like Michael Cole like saying that was like, dude, and I'm hoping that, Cole's a busy man. He's got people in his headset. He's watching the monitor, trying to watch the ring. Maybe he didn't see Cena doing all the Edge mannerisms. I will give Cole at least the benefit of the doubt there. But if I had to guess, I feel like he knew exactly who John Cena was tributing, but he chose to say Roman Reigns because he's just that company guy. But we didn't get a winner there. Brock Lesnar came out, F5'd both guys, and that's that. The match at Wrestlepalooza is official. John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. Now, before we talk about Cena and Brock, I do want to mention the only other thing I really want to talk about last night is Aleister Black and Damian Priest had a match, and Aleister Black got the win. It's the only thing interesting that I saw on SmackDown last night worth talking about. I thought SmackDown was a fun show, but based on these results, the Charlotte is still not cleared. What else do we see on Friday night? Anyway, I forgot. It's not important. It wasn't worth talking about. I just wanted to talk about the AJ Lee return last night, and then, of course, Brock Lesnar F5ing John Cena and John Cena's final SmackDown. That's a wrap. No more SmackDowns for John Cena ever. That sink in? It's like our first... he's been hitting all the cities for the last time, but now we're getting down to so few dates. He's now on his last shows, last SmackDown, because he's going to be finishing up his career mostly on Monday Night Raw. Here's what John Cena has left on his dates. We've got 1 week from this Monday, September 15th, on Raw, Springfield, Massachusetts. Then we've got Wrestlepalooza on September 20th. He's also advertised for Crown Jewel on October 11th. That's going to be in Perth, Australia. Then on November 10th, that's going to be the final Boston show. November 10th, Raw in Boston. November 17th, Raw in New York. And that just leaves 2 dates after that. So I guess that November 17th New York date will be his final time in New York and his final time on Raw. Then we have the Survivor Series here in San Diego that he is apparently advertised for, so I'm really happy that I'm going to get a chance to see John Cena on his second to last appearance. Not quite his last, his second to last here at Survivor Series at Petco Park. And then on December 13th, Saturday night's main event, streaming live on Peacock, not NBC, which is a good thing because now you don't have to worry about commercials destroying that match. He'll have his final match on Saturday night's main event on December 13th, and it will be in Washington, D.C. So a lot of fans are furious about this, and I was at first when I first saw it, but I also didn't realize that Boston is already on the calendar in November. I think it would have been nice if John Cena had his final match in Boston. Yes. But they should have thought about that earlier this year when they were booking these shows and put a DC Raw on November 10th and then have Cena's last match in Boston. But apparently, even though his last match being in Boston would be just 1 month after his last appearance in Boston, apparently there was still a bidding war, and WWE took more money to hold the event in Washington, D.C., which I hate. I absolutely hate, because are you guys thinking what I'm thinking? If he lives that long, that crusty piece of shit coming out there. Like, I was thinking about this last night, and it would just be the irony of all ironies here. My ass, right? Greg, good mic work. Since 2010, I have been adamantly pushing back against, or fiercely pushing back against all of the typical bandwagon John Cena hate from the just frustrated and pent-up wrestling fans that just cannot figure out what the fuck they want in life. And there was so much nonsense, so much slobbering, so much insanity, just pure insanity when it came to John Cena, some of the most vile, hateful type of things I have ever seen from these fucking children. And just on pure principle, I was never going to jump on that bandwagon. I'm too good for that. And I pushed back hard in my commentaries and my YouTube videos and my podcasts and whatnot. And I basically told them, you're all fucking insane. You're all fucked in the head. I understand that John Cena's got some problems, with his booking and whatnot. There's plenty of things that we can discuss, but you guys are taking it to such a level that I think you need therapy. And that was my message throughout every single pay-per-view that John Cena won, when every little bitch boy would be crying out his fucking eyes because John Cena won another match, and I would just get on my YouTube channel and be like, will you have a fucking taco and chill the fuck out? What is with the screaming? Why are you red-faced? Why is there a vein bulging out of your head? It's a goddamn wrestling match. What the fuck is wrong with you? And these children were just completely apeshit. Now they were that way about Roman Reigns. They were that way about Triple H before Cena. Then they transferred it to Roman Reigns. Now a lot of it is on Tony Khan. And it's just like, my God, what, these people have nothing to live for in their lives? So I always push back so hard on that. But how ironic would it be, after a decade and a half, after 15 years of my dumb ass coming out here defending this guy, the very last image that we ever see of John Cena in a professional wrestling environment is him sharing a hug with Donald Trump as they fade to black. It's like all that 15 years for nothing. I thought about that last night. I'm like, you got to be shitting me. I've always said I will be proven right about John Cena. Years and years ago, I said, I will be proven right. And I'm being vindicated now for that, because all this year, fans have really gotten by. I mean, I know the heel turn sucked, but fans are really caught up in the John Cena nostalgia. He's receiving positive responses from the fans. You don't hear any of that hate about him anymore. That's all gone. That's all evaporated. And I said, one day, you little sniveling little fucking shits are going to grow to respect him. When he goes into the Hall of Fame, you are going to clap and cry. You might not think this now, because you're all 15 and angry and full of P&V, still waiting to touch your first boob, so you don't think this way now. But when you get older, you're going to see what I'm talking about. And I was right. I was 100% right. Because all of those fans with a tree branch up their ass about him have completely let all that shit go. Completely. And so now I'm like, yeah, told you motherfuckers I was right. And then the last thing we see of him is him hugging the human being that I hate most in this entire goddamn galaxy. Yep, that would be Greg's luck. So I almost got to find the humor in that. Like, I'm not even going to be mad. I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Story of my fucking life. So anyway, I think that would be amusing if that wound up being the case. But so that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 dates left. September 15th, September 20th, October 11th, November 10th, November 17th, November 29th, and December 13th. That is it. I think the November 10th Boston Raw could be a lot of fun. I think it sucks that WWE, allowed Boston to get outbid, and they'd rather take more money than put John Cena where he deserves to be, but at least they are there in November. If there wasn't a Boston show left on the calendar between now and when Cena retired, I'd be pretty pissed off as a fan. I'd be like, that's horseshit, man. But as shitty as WWE is and all the crappy, shitty fucking things they do every goddamn day of their existence, this is one of the least offensive. Like they were there. They're there in November. He can have his final Boston night there. And John Cena has really said a lot of times over and over that he doesn't really have much say in who he works with and what he does, and he's pretty content on just doing whatever they tell him. So I don't think he's really lobbying or pushing hard. I have to have my match in Boston. Maybe some other wrestlers would be that way. But John Cena legitimately doesn't seem to give a shit. So if John Cena doesn't give a shit, why would I? So that's the way I choose to look at that. He's got a show coming up in Boston just a month before he retires. That's going to have to be good enough. But, man, we are this close to the end of John Cena. I will take that December 13th off. We will watch his retirement match. Maybe we'll put together a nice big John Cena podcast. Maybe we'll go through all of his greatest moments, his not so great moments. We'll talk about his career. We'll make it a big John Cena party up in here on December 13th. We'll watch his final match, and then we will talk about his career. And I'm going to have to brush up on his history because I'm not so great on all of it. I remember his matches, but I can't chronologically list everything for you. I can't even tell you. I couldn't tell you half the fucking titles he won. What's he up to, 17? I could maybe tell you 6 of them that I remember him winning. I have no clue the rest. All those matches with Orton and all that shit, no fucking idea how many times or when, he actually won all of his championships. So I'll have to brush up on some of my history and some of my knowledge as it relates to Cena, but I think on December 13th, that might be a fun thing to do. You can't see me. You can't see me podcast. And maybe I'll just do it invisible. I won't even be on screen here as a tribute to John. We will have to see. So now we've got Wrestlepalooza set, right? It's going to be Brock Lesnar and John Cena at Wrestlepalooza, but we also have some AEW All Out news that broke this week. Now, up until a couple of days ago, Wrestlepalooza and All Out was set to go head-to-head. We know WWE has been trying to counter-program AEW at every turn, and they booked Wrestlepalooza specifically to fuck with All Out. And we were all wondering what Tony Khan was going to do about that, if he was going to stay put or if he was going to move the show. Turns out, not only are they moving the show, but as rumored, we talked about this last week, it does look like, or it was looking like there was going to be something involved with Max as well in these pay-per-views. So not only has Tony Khan decided to move All Out to earlier on in the day, it's now going to be 3 o'clock Eastern, noon Pacific. And Wrestlepalooza starts at 7 Eastern, 4 Pacific. So this gives All Out 4 hours to get their show done before Wrestlepalooza. This kind of bums me out because I really wanted to do a split screen watch-along on that day and have All Out here and Wrestlepalooza up on the TV and try to watch both of them on a live stream. I thought that would be really fun. Now that All Out is moving on to earlier in the day, I got to think about how I want to handle this, but I think what we'll probably do is I will just watch Wrestlepalooza myself, and so I can make notes on the show. Then we will watch, in a watch-along, we will watch Wrestlepalooza, and then we will stick around later for both, or to review both. Or maybe I'll do it reverse. Maybe we'll watch Wrestlepalooza, then we'll break, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. All I know is I can't watch both of them now because that'll be about 8 hours of watch-alongs alone. Then I got to stick around for a 2-hour review. I can't stream for 10 hours on that day. So I'm going to have to watch one but not the other, and I'll figure all that out. We'll have a schedule up for you guys soon. But now that Wrestlepalooza is on earlier on in the day, that's seemingly because AEW wants to try to maximize their profit, and they don't want to lose any pay-per-view buys. And I understand that, but I was really hoping they would just stay put, because if they stay put, that's gonna affect WWE as well. WWE's got some big matches, that for some reason they want to go head-to-head with AEW, but if AEW stayed put, if I was Tony Khan, I'd be like, fine, let's do it. Let's bring it. I'm going to try to put on the best show possible as well. And I'm hoping in future scenarios, maybe he won't be moving the show. And that we do see what happens when it goes head-to-head. Now, obviously, it's going to be impossible to judge metrics because one is going to be streaming and the other is going to be pay-per-views, so buy rates and viewer count and all of that. The fans can, climb up their own asses and worry about who's going to win that week or whatever. But I was hoping that Tony Khan would kind of stay put because, he doesn't have shareholders to answer to. WWE does. And if they keep pulling this shit enough and Tony Khan doesn't back down and he keeps trying to put forth the best show that he can, this could kind of have an effect like the Monday Night Wars did, where both companies kind of were forcing each other to do better. So Tony Khan, could use this as a way to give us and he always does go above and beyond for pay-per-views, but really, really book some crazy things to try to combat that. And if that keeps happening and WWE is looking at their numbers and they're like, our numbers are good, but they could be a hell of a lot higher if we weren't going head to head with AEW, and maybe eventually they realize that that's just not sustainable. It just doesn't make any sense to keep fucking with them. And if the goal here is to try to ruin them so they don't get another TV deal, that's not going to happen. And even if that is their goal, I think that's really shitty of WWE to even have that fucking goal. Just assholes, So if I was Tony Khan, I would have just stayed put, because if this big bad company that's 20 times our size wants to bully us, we can put a dent in their buy rates too and their viewership. If we put forth a card that's just as good looking as theirs, or if WWE, continues to build their reputation of being douchebags, everybody loves an underdog, and the only ones that will really be rooting for WWE are the shitheads, or just the evil people, the MAGA motherfuckers that think trafficking women is a strength in somebody. A lot of people like Donald Trump because he is on the Epstein list. That's how fucked up this world is. And so no matter how awful you are, and no matter how much of a bully you are, or how big you are, to bully other, companies makes weak wrestling fans feel powerful. And so those are the ones that are really going to like it. But other people are going to be like, this is really shitty. And that will catch up to them. And I've seen that a lot, and I've mentioned this a lot with WWE. They've got this arrogance about them that's kind of reminding me of what they did during those authority days. And I've talked about this over and over. Back in the day, you could see it. It was written all over Triple H's face. It was in his voice. I'm going to call my friend Mark, and we're going to stop watching, or I'm going to post a Vine or post a tweet, or all that whole thing, that whole promo that he had. There was something about the fans that WWE despised. Triple H doesn't like us. He says, we do everything for the fans. The fuck you do. You do not. You don't like us. And you like it when we're disappointed. And back then, prior to TKO owning them and stuff, I felt like they were getting some sort of enjoyment. This weird perverted enjoyment out of upsetting us and pissing us off. And then they would be in the back laughing about it. These idiots are going to tune in every week. And what happened? Fans started getting turned off. And by the time you got to 2018 and 2019, their numbers were dog shit. Remember some of those Smackdowns and Raws where 90% of the building is tarped off? They had the tarped off hard cams. They had the dog shit ratings. They had the effortless and passionless and pointless weekly television shows that offered nothing compelling whatsoever at all. And the attendance went first, and the ratings went first, and then the attendance started to follow. But then AEW came around, they snapped out of it, started putting forth, a better product, and now look at them. They've been going through this hot period for the past couple of years, but they have this, and now they're kind of reminding me of that past arrogance they used to have. They have learned nothing from their past attitudes towards us. Bruce Pritchard said something recently like, I don't give a shit what people say on social media. I only care about paying fans. I know social media can be a cesspool. I understand that. But that's the type of arrogance and stupidity that I'm talking about, where they don't give a shit what anybody says or thinks or complains about. They're looking at their numbers. And it's like they don't understand that these changes don't happen overnight. If the fans are starting to complain, but then you're looking at the attendance you did last night, well, our attendance is fine. Yeah, it is right now. It doesn't just go from good to bad overnight. It's a decline. And usually the ratings are the first to go. And we've seen lower ratings across the board just this week alone. And that's usually where it starts. And then the attendance starts to taper off after that. Because they still have a lot of over characters in WWE. The fans are still going to yeet their asses off for Jey Uso and their stars like Rhea Ripley and Roman Reigns and CM Punk. They all get massive reactions from WWE. So those are always going to stay intact. They have very, very over characters right now that are keeping the product afloat, but their stories are dog shit. For all these fans who say AEW doesn't have any stories, they got better stories than WWE. My God, that story of Hangman winning the championship was one of the best they've ever done. What are you talking about? They have no stories. Look at what's going on in WWE right now. It's all so formulaic. Every SmackDown, well, maybe not last night, most SmackDowns, most Raws are this formulaic nonsense where you could watch it blindfolded and still know when commercial breaks are coming, when we're going to get a backstage interview and all this stuff. It's just uninspiring. It's, they've got great characters and they've got some cohesiveness, creatively, but nothing's compelling at all. And you can see that starting to happen. And I think WWE, the more arrogant they get, the more they think they're untouchable. These fucking morons think they're in a permanent hot period. For some reason, they think hot periods don't end, when literally every single hot period throughout the history of the industry over the past 100 years has ended. Then you go through a downtime, and then sometimes the business sparks back up again for various reasons, whether it be WCW forming or people jumping ship when Ted Turner bought the company, or AEW forming, or whatever the reasons are. Rock and wrestling to Attitude Era to what we see now, it always fades. And you have to do your best to try to maintain that audience interest, maintain the fans coming to your shows every week. And when you have this arrogant attitude that we can just do whatever we want and the fans are going to pay anyway, you're going to regret that, because that's not the case. They're pulling in crazy record numbers right now, and if that's all, and that's obviously all they care about. So if they hear fans complaining about WWE creative, but then they immediately look at the attendance they drew last night, we pulled in $5 million for this fucking SmackDown or whatever. That's their measurement for success. That's fine, but that's going to diminish. It's going to get less and less the more you stop caring about really giving the fans what they want. You can go on your stupid media scrums and say that all day long. You have to actually do it, and you have to actually mean it. And you can kind of see things starting to happen. And it might be a 3 or 4 year process for this to happen, but if WWE thinks that they're going to really put the pressure on AEW, they're going to lose focus of what they're doing, and then fans are going to start getting fed up with them. And the minute they start seeing some significant, not just 1 week, but significant ratings decreases. I know they had a horrible number on Friday last week, but that's 1 week. We got to see, if that trend continues and whatnot. And if they see that, there might be hope to where they're going to start realizing, okay, let's stop obsessing about this number 2 company that's no threat to us at all, but we're so fucking insecure that we can't stop trying to snuff them out because we don't want them to gain momentum, because we know that when they do, they're pretty damn good. And they were giving us a run for our money 6 years ago in the ratings. There was a time when Raws was 1.5 and Dynamites were 1.1. They weren't that far off. So, they can easily return to that. Nothing is ever permanent. Just this arrogance. And I know I always draw comparisons, but that after the election, you had Roseanne and Kid Rock and all this. They made a music video. I'm like, celebrate all you want, guys. Mr. Taco Tits has got cankles this fucking big. He's got a swollen forehead, bruised fucking arms. He's 80 years old. What are you celebrating here? This old, ancient, decrepit, cognitive declining fucking idiot? This is what you're celebrating, jumping up and down, and you think he's going to live forever or something? Like, what the hell? And it's like, okay, just keep thinking this way, and you're going to see how that's going to backfire on you. And I feel like WWE has that type of arrogance where they don't seem to quite get that fans actually do have minds of their own. And obviously WWE's got their E-drones, right? There's plenty of wrestling fans out there that only watch WWE and have only watched WWE. They're programmed a certain way. They're always going to be there. Sure. But the diehards aren't the majority. Remember all the talk about the casuals with AEW? You're going to start hearing that casual fans talk again with WWE if they don't start getting better with their completely emotionless product right now. A lot of fans just think the creative is shit in WWE. The creative isn't great in either company. I know I'm shitting on WWE a lot right now, but wrestling kind of in general sucks at the moment. It's not great. It's not bad, but it's not as great as it's been. And WWE kind of in a creative slide. AEW feels like they're in one too. They got a good champion. They've got some fun things going on there. But overall, the machine as a whole, I feel like could be better over there. It could be better in WWE. Both companies could be doing better, and if WWE is going to be so focused on counter-programming pay-per-views and whatnot, all right, are you familiar with the phrase taking your eye off the ball? Because that's what's going to happen. When you're so consumed with something else, you're not thinking about what's actually important. Years ago, when WWE used to talk about WCW or Vince used to talk about WCW, I don't pay attention to them. I'm concentrating on what we're doing, not what they're doing. Our focus is on making our product the best. That's where their focus should be. But they're constantly worried about AEW. I don't know why they're worried. Why are they so worried about them? Why are they counter-programming them if they're not competition? Why are they counter-programming a mud show? Like, what are these fans telling themselves? These mud show fans, these AEW's going to be dead in 2 years and all this bullshit. What are they telling themselves about this? Like, what do they think is going on here? The WWE is just fucking with AEW because they're no threat to them and they're just doing it anyway. They see them as a threat. They don't want another TV deal for AEW because they know if they get one, they ain't never going away. Because TV deals, historically, are much higher when you renew them. And they just got renewed for a big offer, a big amount that put AEW now into the green. They're now a profitable company. And if they can survive another 5 years and get another TV deal, now they're going to double that money. And it's going to be very hard to uproot them. But it's going to be hard to uproot them anyway because they've got money and they can always compete talent-wise. The talent is always going to be there for AEW. They have enough money to be able to pay anybody and outbid anybody that they want. So they're not going to have a fear, really, of like losing all their talent because there's money there. People are going to go where the money is. Not everybody, but you have money. Where WWE didn't have that luxury against WCW when they were buying up all the past stars. WWE was forced to kind of create new ones because they didn't have any money to match these offers. Tony Khan does. So that's different. With the talent should not be an issue, should not be a factor in one company winning this war over the other because they both have enough money to pay their talent. So the talent's not an issue. It's going to come down to creative. It's going to come down to focus. And with WWE focusing so hard on another promotion instead of themselves, put that energy, all that energy, put that into your own product. All this energy you spend worrying about getting your Travis Scotts and your Post Malones and your Jelly Rolls and all this shit, put that energy into creative. Because when I see some of the shit they do on TV, and then I think about that Unreal documentary, I'm like, you mean to tell me with all those dudes back there in that creative meeting, Triple H chewing on his ice and fucking blow pops and airheads and 5-hour energies out the ass in that room, a whiteboard as big as my damn house. Some of the stuff we see is the best you got. Man, WWE's, they look like idiots. That Unreal documentary exposed how they don't have their shit together for WrestleMania and for Cena's heel turn and what just a debacle that was. Here's a hot take for you. Cena's entire heel run was 100 times worse than those little fireworks exploding on Kenny Omega, on John Moxley and Eddie Kingston. Was it Moxley and Kingston or Kenny and Kingston? Was it Kenny? What was the thing that happened in the exploding match or whatever that was such an embarrassment? Cena's heel turn was worse. It was worse than the firecrackers. I'm sorry. It was worse. So that was a production blunder, with AEW. This is a creative blunder. This is WWE doing something so fucking stupid that you have to sit down and wonder if this is real or not. John Cena's final run, his farewell tour, you're going to randomly turn him heel. He's 99% done with his career, and then you're going to turn him heel for 6 months and then have him finish the last 4 months as a babyface? You mean to tell me that's what you had in mind the whole time? They don't have their shit together. And they screwed up John Cena's his retirement run because we have 6 months of completely useless content and footage and appearances from John Cena, matches and moments that could have been used towards someone else. And so WWE walking around with their noses up in the air. I'm like, bitches, don't act like you got your shit together. You don't. John Cena's heel turn will go down as one of the most embarrassing things that WWE's ever done. And one of the biggest fumbles, the biggest failures that they've ever had. It's XFL level failure right here, what they did with Cena. Now, luckily, they turned him back babyface, but think about how they did that. Remember I just said all those people in the writer's room there and everybody talking for hours on end? The best they had to come up with was to say, hey, let's have Cena come out in Smackdown and tell the fans on the microphone that he's just a babyface now. There's no story beat. There's no path to getting there. I mean, it would have to be a quick one because he doesn't have a lot of dates left. But the fact that there was nothing there at all, he's just like, oh, I'm a babyface now. I'm like, all them dudes in that creative room making all that money with all that candy and all them 5-hour energies, that's what they collectively decided was the best thing to do. They're stupid. And you're starting to see that. And it's going to happen more. You're going to see these uninspiring Raws, these formulaic Smackdowns. It's going to happen week after week. Usually lately it feels like Raw's either been good or Smackdown's been good, and they've kind of been trading off over the past couple of years. It's going to get to the point where they're both just going to flat out suck. And then you're going to see, no more brand split. Now people are going to be going back and forth. They're going to be throwing Cody on Raw and Punk on SmackDown, and they're already doing that. And then it's just going to become more jumbled, and the creative is going to make less sense. And I see them running into problems. So they should back off. But they're not gonna. They're gonna keep doing it. And I really, really hope it bites them in the ass. I'm a big believer in karma. And it doesn't make any really long-term sense to me for WWE to counter-program the way they are. And if they do have this goal of putting them out of business or trying to kill them before they get a next TV deal, what if they fail at that? And they will. What are they going to say then? They're going to look like idiots. You guys spent the last 4 years trying to snuff out AEW, and you couldn't do it. Now they got another TV deal, and they're here to stay. You wasted your time. You took views, you took exposure away from your own talent, from your own shows, just to fuck with this non-existent threat. They are the number 2 wrestling company in the world, 100%, but they're a distant due. WWE's here, AEW's way down here, and then TNA, everybody else is way down there. So there's a big gap between WWE and AEW. And I think it's really, really weird that the WWE seems so concerned with what they're doing. If you were confident in your product, if you were confident in your fan base, and you were confident in what you give, in the content you give to your fan base, you wouldn't be doing this. You would say, we're so great and we're so good at what we do, nobody is ever going to be able to come close to competing with us. And having a small-time competitor out there, having a number 2 that's a distant number 2 that is never going to be in any realistic danger of being taken over by them. The WWE's never going to relinquish the number 1 spot to AEW. They're always going to be number 2. Unless something catastrophic happens, I can't see AEW catching up to WWE. How's that going to happen? So having a number 2, especially a number 2 that's really no threat to you, is healthy for the business. It only brings good to the business. It's more work. It's more money for wrestlers. Somewhere else to work, a place to apply their craft. And the fact that WWE is actively trying to snuff that out and own a monopoly on everything, and then you have fans out there that are rooting for that, no wonder you have no friends. My God, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. So I'm very much against WWE's counter-programming. I don't think it benefits anybody at all. It certainly doesn't benefit the fans, and it just makes them look like douchebags. And eventually, that's going to catch up with them. This reputation. This is the reputation they had back during the Authority days. The fans were so fucking sick of them. Sick of Stephanie, sick of Triple H. Every time they spoke, either on camera or off TV, it just made you mad because they came across as such assholes. And I'm seeing that start again. So now Wrestlepalooza and All Out will not be going head to head. And one thing I didn't mention with All Out moving times is that they're also now going to be streaming on Max. It's not the greatest discount, but it is something. So Max subscribers can order the pay-per-view at a $10 discount. You can get it for $39.99, I suppose, if you order it on Max. Now, the other standard pay-per-view ways are still available. You can order on YouTube, on Triller, maybe not Triller, whatever ones they still do, Amazon, I think. And so you can still order the pay-per-view in your standard way, but if you are already a Max subscriber, you get a $10 discount. I guess that's the best they could do. AEW still heavily relies on pay-per-view buys, and they rely on that revenue. So they don't really want to take a chunk out of that. But at the same time, you got to figure something out for your pay-per-views, especially in situations where you're going head-to-head. Because one advantage WWE does have, even with them moving to ESPN, is that a lot of people are already going to have that anyway, so they're not really going to have to pay for it. But imagine it was on Peacock. Your choices would be free on Peacock or $50 for the PPV. Now it's technically free on ESPN. Unless you don't have it, you pay the $30, or you pay the $50 or the $40 from AEW. So it's a little bit closer, but still WWE has a huge advantage here because their pay-per-view is essentially streamed for free, where AEW, you still have to purchase them individually. So I think at some point it would be really, really great if AEW could find a deal similar to what WWE has with ESPN, or the deal that they did have with Peacock, in order to better compete. But for the meantime, we're just getting the $10 discount. I will order it on Max that night and see how it goes. Hopefully there's no issues. I'm half tempted just to order it on YouTube like I always do and pay the extra $10 just to ensure that I have a good experience. Because if something goes wrong on Max, I certainly don't want to have to hop over to another platform and have to purchase it a second time. So we will see. But that's the deal there. All Out is now earlier on in the day. It should get done before Wrestlepalooza starts. But knowing Tony Khan, a lot of his pay-per-views run past 4 hours. So I might run a longer show here. It depends on what WWE is planning on opening with. I feel like both companies that day should keep an eye on each other. WWE should be watching the progress of All Out. And I'm wondering if WWE is going to pre-announce which match is going to open the show. They might not. They might wait. They might have 2 matches. Okay, if All Out is done, this match is opening. If All Out is still going on, we're going to go with this match instead. And you might have an opportunity to do something kind of fun here. If I'm Tony Khan, I would book my show especially if WWE announces that their first match is a big one. If WWE announces that AJ and Punk versus Seth and Becky is going to open Wrestlepalooza, which it might. If they announce that's going to open the show, if I was Tony Khan, I would run my show long. I would run my show 4.5 hours to 5. Maybe even going as far as having the show end right at the 4-hour mark and make the fans think the show was going off the air, right? Show their little watermark and we'll see you this Wednesday for Dynamite, and then have some big return. Somebody comes out and returns, and then we get an impromptu match. The pay-per-view's already over, main event is done. Now we're getting a big return and an impromptu match. I don't know who would return, and I don't know what impromptu match you would do, but if you did something like that right at the end of Wrestlepalooza, and then WWE is watching the monitor, oh fuck, they got another match, and now Punk and AJ are coming out to the ring. I don't know, maybe if you're Tony Khan, you can, it's minor, but something like that might affect the viewership a little bit of Wrestlepalooza. So I'm wondering if there's going to be little games being played, between the two companies. We'll have to see. Pardon me while I eat a little piece of this gummy. So yeah, All Out officially moved and will not be going head-to-head with Palooza. All right. On to the next order of business. It's going to be AJ Styles. But before we do that, cruising over here to the chat. Lots of stuff to answer. And we will be getting into that here in just a bit. I'll circle back and knock out these Super Chats in a minute. Eddie Kingston versus Big Bill. There you go, Eddie. That's a good one. Eddie would be perfect. I forgot about Eddie Kingston because the fans are just in love with his ass. So Eddie Kingston returning at the very end of All Out, challenging Hangman Page for the championship and beating him. It's all about dominating the headlines, right? Now imagine if Eddie Kingston, who I love, but in all honesty, looks like a garbage man, wins the AEW Heavyweight Championship in an impromptu match with Hangman Page to close All Out. I feel like that would do a pretty good job of suppressing the headlines of WWE a little bit. You got Eddie Kingston coming back, one of the biggest fan favorites in the world, in the wrestling world, and he wins the championship and gets this wonderful moment. A lot of fans, we might be talking about that more than Punk and AJ versus Seth and Becky, or more than Brock versus Cena. It is possible. Excuse me. Something like that is very possible. I would love it if they did that. I would try to play some games. Let's try to do some stuff here. They were doing this in the Monday Night Wars, right? Bischoff would give away the results. Then my OBS is saying it's disconnecting and reconnecting, but I think I'm all right. All right. We saw that in the Monday Night Wars. Bischoff gave away the results. Then I think they started going live like a couple of minutes early. Then WWE started moving to like 8:57. Remember that? Then you moved into the Billionaires TED skits. Now the companies are calling each other out on TV. Eric Bischoff is challenging Vince McMahon to matches. All this stuff that they were doing was kind of fun a couple of times. And if you start doing this stuff on pay-per-view, you never know where they're going to start messing with each other a little bit. If I was Tony Khan, he's in a weird spot here, because you got a lot of revenue to worry about, and you need to worry about, your money and your finances and success of the company and whatnot. But I would fight back. I would try to be a nuisance to them more than they're being a nuisance to you, because there are ways that you can fight back here. WWE can go counter-program your shit. You can do the same thing to them. They did, as a matter of fact, because WWE announced Money in the Bank ahead of time. So Tony Khan booked All In the same weekend. And I think the companies probably, if this is the game WWE wants to play, they maybe need to start doing this to each other. And Tony Khan should start doing it to WWE. Whenever they have a show announced before AEW does, book a show. Make a show. Even if you don't have one, make one. Book something to go head-to-head with it and try to drive WWE crazy to where they say, okay, this shit isn't worth it. Now it's starting to piss off our shareholders. Because we're like, dudes, we could have made even more money, had even more revenue, and and more viewership had you just gone unopposed. But this little stupid vendetta that all you weirdos are so obsessed with in WWE is starting to affect our bottom line. Knock it the fuck off. That could happen. And Tony Khan is not stupid. He's got a lot of smart people in his family, and there's a lot of businesses that Khan family owns. I'm sure they can come up with some strategy to combat this. And I would recommend that. Just don't let them bully you, they're not worth being scared of, like, fuck you guys, you're idiots. You might be big and bad and in charge, but you're a moron. Reminds me of somebody else that I've mentioned already twice in this podcast. So, yeah. Am I still going here? Are we good? No, we're good. Okay. All right, we're still good. Yeah, all my settings say we're fine, but it looked like we had a brief interruption there a couple of minutes ago, but we are smooth sailing, I believe. All right, let's finally talk about AJ Styles, because AJ Styles might be winding down his career as well, and he had an interesting post on his Instagram account a couple of days ago where he just basically posted a picture of an hourglass. And so, of course, naturally, that had fans speculating, what does that mean? What does that hourglass mean? So Fightful Select dug into it a little bit. Here's what they had to say yesterday, and I quote, "Earlier this year, there was heavy speculation on the contract of AJ Styles and when it was scheduled to expire. Fightful Select found out from those close to Styles that his deal was extended for 1 year. We're told that WWE does hope to retain him after that period, but will evaluate things and his interest. What we didn't know at that point was when the contract actually expires or how long the deal was. Sources close to Styles indicated that the deal is up around February of 2026, which would have him expiring after the Royal Rumble and before WrestleMania season." So AJ kind of said he was going to do 1 more year, and February is kind of a weird time for your contract to be up. I kind of hope that, and again, this is going to be up to AJ, but I hope that he does stick around a little bit longer than that February date if that information on his contract is accurate. I do hope that he sticks around a little bit longer than that, and I'm sure that WWE is basically telling him, hey, you can go for as long as you want to go. If you want to continuously sign 6-month or 1-year extensions, I'm sure WWE will be happy to do that. Let AJ decide. He might not know yet what he wants to do. Maybe he's thinking about it, but February would be a really, really weird time for him to retire. So, if I was him, I would try to sign another 6-month deal and retire at SummerSlam. Have your final Mania match and then go into the summer and have the summer of AJ, where maybe he works some final dream matches, some final dream opponents. This is all, of course, contingent on his health and making sure that he's healthy and remains uninjured. And if that's the case, he himself can have another send-off, just shortly after John Cena had one. Because it doesn't look like we're going to get a John Cena and AJ Styles match before he retires. We might. There's a chance of that, but it's looking very unlikely. But Cena's got to have a last match against someone, and we really don't know who that is yet. I think it could be Brock, because I mentioned that, maybe Brock goes into Wrestlepalooza with the intent of retiring John Cena right there, and maybe he comes very close to achieving that and knocks Cena out of action for a little while, and then Cena comes back near the end of the year and beats Brock again in his final match. Brock could be his retirement match. He could. He could also have a match with Brock and Crown Jewel. So I'd be surprised if it was a one-off. If he did face Brock, and, is he going to beat him? What's going to happen there? So I'm really holding out hope that AJ does find himself in the ring one final time with John Cena. But AJ's going to have his own, retirement little run, apparently, probably very soon, and maybe in 2026. So if this information is accurate and his contract is really up around February, I hope that he signs some sort of an extension. 6 months, a year, maybe just 3 months, maybe just through WrestleMania. Let me stay around 2 more months through Mania. I'll have my final match at Mania or something like that. Or maybe his final match on the Raw after Mania. Something like that would be nice, but it's kind of scary to think that we're nearing the end of AJ Styles' career as well. This year alone, we're saying goodbye to John Cena, Goldberg, although that wasn't that difficult to get through. Tanahashi, of course, is wrapping up his career right at the beginning of the year. And AJ Styles potentially next year as well. I think I'm forgetting someone. I feel like somebody else is on the verge of retirement too. But whatever AJ Styles decides to do, we wish him the best. But I have a feeling he'll stick around a little bit longer after February, but maybe not too much longer after that. His Hourglass post on Instagram did read, like, I'm not done yet, or something like that. So maybe he's insinuating there that his time is not coming to an end, but he actually wants his time to continue. And you don't know how you're going to feel from month to month, year to year. So a year ago, if AJ was like, I got 1 more year left, maybe he's like, nah, I still got 1 more year left. You never know. AJ is my age, so whatever he does in the ring, I always am happy to see him doing stuff. I'm like, okay, so people my age can do things. That's nice. But he's been injured a few times, and obviously he's, not the worker he was, but he's still incredible, even at his age. Him and Shawn Michaels, AJ and Shawn Michaels are the only ones I can really think of that were still that good once they got to that age. Like late 40s, how they can still have 5-star matches like it's nothing is mind-blowing to me. So all the best to AJ Styles, and hopefully we get him a little bit longer than February and at least get to see him work one final WrestleMania. And if he did get to have one final WrestleMania match, maybe it even could be at WrestleMania. I would love if AJ Styles' last match was at WrestleMania. Or maybe they can even do one in TNA. I mean, if they want to have TNA break their own attendance record again, why don't you book an AJ Styles retirement match on a TNA pay-per-view? What TNA pay-per-views come early on in the year? I don't even know their pay-per-view schedule. I know there's Slammiversary and Bound for Glory, but those are all like later in the year. What about like Unbreakables and things like that? Maybe TNA runs a big pay-per-view. Maybe they book, maybe they run like a big arena, like a basketball-size arena, and they put 12,000 people in there. And they nearly double their attendance record just off the strength of AJ Styles' last match. That could be cool too. Be a special moment for him. And then he could still come back to WWE and do the send-off in the ring, like the Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels type of send-off on Raw. Leave the memories alone, like something like that. He can still do that too. But no, WWE isn't going to give that retirement match to TNA. They have a working agreement with him, and they still wouldn't be able to bring themselves to do it. When AJ Styles appeared at Slammiversary, he just came out and cut a promo. They're not going to let him work. They suck. WWE sucks. Anyway, let's talk about these shitty ratings here. So we had last week's Smackdown, which drew 1.1 million. Like, that's super low. Dynamite this week drew 472,000. Collision was under 200,000. I think NXT was slightly up. Raw was slightly down, but not too much down. Raw's numbers are weird. They're generated for over 7 days. So this past Monday's Raw got about 2.6 million views over the course of a week. Generally, that's where they're sitting. They're sitting between 2.5 and 3 million views over the course of 7 days for Raws. That's kind of where they're at. So they're pretty much on average there. NXT wasn't too bad either. They're still doing fine. Although, I don't know how anybody watches that show. I cannot watch NXT. And this is nothing against the wrestlers there. I love Obafemi. Fucking love him. That you talk about the next big thing. Holy shit. Love Ricky Starks. Love Jordan Grace. I want to love Blake Monroe, even though I think her whole entire run in WWE so far has been a complete bust. But the show in general is just stupid. It's so stupid. I can't watch NXT. I hate it. I hate it. You know, whenever I do turn on a couple of clips and I have to watch fucking, what's her name? Yam Yam Bigelow. What's her name? Nikita Koloff? Nikita Lyons. Oh, did you see the Instagram video of her talking about the paper moon? I was reading about this paper moon. It's almost like the algorithms know where the idiots are. So, like, whenever I see their backstage segments or whatnot, I don't know how they even do ratings at all. I don't know how anybody watches it. It's so awful. But anyway, wrestling kind of across the board this week was a little down. Now, you do have to take into consideration a couple of factors. That Smackdown ran early because it was overseas, but it did air in the U.S. at normal time. But also, you're going up against football now. Football is here. You got U.S. Open tennis. You got all sorts of shit going on. So Smackdown and Dynamite and Collision, they can probably all have excuses if they want, but you got to at least pay attention to those type of numbers when you see drastic dips as low as Dynamite got, that 472, which is their lowest rating for Dynamite in their normal time slot. It's still not down as much as Smackdown was. Smackdown was down 36% or something like that. Where I think AEW was more like 16%. Like, it's crazy. So we did see some dips, but, you know, I hate ratings discourse in general because one thing that we've talked about so many times over the past few years is how everything changes now. You know, you can't look at numbers in the Attitude Era and then compare them to now, because the numbers in the Attitude Era would not look like that if we had the internet the way we have it now. If we had YouTube and Twitch and Twitter and Instagram and all of the different websites, and streaming was available, and we could record anything we wanted and watch it later with a push of a button without having to put a tape in the VCR or anything like that, you would see those numbers way down as well. So it's just a different era in terms of the views and ratings and whatnot, because there's so many different ways to watch. Some fans just watch the YouTube clips on YouTube. You know, like with Dynamite today, I didn't watch Dynamite on Wednesday. I watched it today. I just pulled up my Max and watched the replay. I don't know if that counts. I don't think it counts. You know, so that 472,000 wasn't including me. You know, that's just the TBS rating. So there's got to be a lot of people like me, right? How many of you in the chat didn't watch Dynamite on Wednesday, but watched it the next day, or just watched a few clips, or watched some highlights, or caught up on Twitter? Some people might just go to AEW's Twitter account and watch the videos there. Okay, I got a pretty good idea of what happened on Dynamite. You're watching, but it's not getting counted in the ratings because you're not watching on cable as it happened. So it's just different, you know? So when I see that 1.1 million people watch SmackDown, to me, that doesn't mean that only 1.1 million people watch SmackDown. Just 1.1 million people watch SmackDown when it aired on the USA Network. Another 3-point-something million probably watched on YouTube or on demand or on DVR or on social media or on an illegal stream. Same thing with Dynamite. Only 472,000 people watched Dynamite. No, only 472,000 people watched on TBS. That's not including the Max numbers. It's not including the YouTube numbers. It's not include people just watching highlights or listening to podcasts or whatever. Some people just watch podcasts and get their news and the results from wrestling. All of that counts. That counts as you keeping up with it. So ratings in general are just different, but they're still not meaningless, you know? So when you have low ratings, you got to pay attention to that and wonder what the hell was causing it, especially when it's drastic drops like that. SmackDown and Dynamite both. Whoosh, like, what the fuck is that about? Let's see if that recovers. Does anybody have the rating for last night? I haven't seen it yet. I don't know how the ratings work on the weekends. It might be Monday when we get the SmackDown rating, but I don't know if they improved from that 1.1. I would hope they would, because SmackDown was a huge deal. You know, everybody kind of knew AJ Lee was coming back. We had Brock Lesnar come back as well. We had John Cena's final SmackDown. How can they not pull a decent rating for that? But if it's low, we will see. Cross that bridge when we get to it. What's next in my wrestling news? Oh, yeah, Chris Jericho. Chris Jericho speaks. Chris Jericho was asked by the Daily Mail about his WWE return, and I didn't catch where he was. He was on some red carpet, some premiere somewhere. Daily Mail was there. They asked him about his WWE return, and here's what he said. And I quote, "The best thing that can happen in wrestling is AEW. And the fact that there's two huge promotions that you can choose from just makes it better for the guys and makes it better for the fans and everybody in between." I 1,000,000,000% agree with Chris Jericho on that. He goes on to say, "So I'm not going anywhere for a while. I'm still with AEW for right now. Would I go back to WWE? I wouldn't be opposed to it. We have to see what happens." He just needs to wait until his contract is up. But the best thing that can happen is that you have two great teams that you can play for, and that just makes everything bigger and more exciting. So he's still, putting over AEW. I think even when he leaves there, he'll be very complimentary towards them. And I think he probably will go back to WWE. If you read between the lines there, I wouldn't be opposed to it. We just have to see what happens. I'm with AEW right now. Yeah, because you're under contract. But there's only a few months left on your contract. And when it is up, I'd be surprised if Jericho inked another deal with AEW. He's probably heading back to WWE to retire, and that's perfectly fine. He was a big asset to AEW. He was a big part of why they were, why they got on the map in the first place. They needed that kind of like Hall of Fame level guy to get them jump started. And he was a great first champion for them. La Champion. He was tremendous. But now, his value and what he can offer to that company really isn't there anymore. And I kind of do hope that he goes back to WWE and we get a Chris Jericho Hall of Fame induction and maybe one final match, although he's not much in the ring these days. I still think maybe some sort of a send-off for Jericho could be something fun. And we might see that in the future one day. Wouldn't be surprised at all if Jericho finds himself back into the WWE family. All right. How about this? So here's some potentially great news. Did you guys see all the weight that The Rock dropped? Look at him. Look at this skinny dude. You can almost now tell what he's going to look like when he's an old man. Like if you kind of blur your eyes, he looks kind of like wrinkly and stuff. So you can almost kind of see how he's going to look when he's 70. He'll still be bald, but he'll be way smaller. And he certainly won't be on the sauce anymore, or the juice, I should say. And he's undergone this crazy body transformation where apparently he dropped like 60 pounds of what looks to be all muscle. And he was photographed a couple of times with this new look, and they premiered the fighting machine at the Venice Film Festival, and he received a standing ovation after the movie, and he was very emotional and whatnot, and the movie does look very good, but it also looks like your typical type of fighter movie. I don't know what's going to be so special about this movie compared to other fighting movies that are like it, but apparently he did get quite the ovation in Venice for that, and at some point I'll probably see the fighting machine. But one good thing about this is that if The Rock is undergoing this body transformation and he's trying to maybe change up, his acting, in terms of his acting roles to where he's not just going to be this crazy over-the-top action star, and he wants to take on more serious roles where he's not just got muscles coming out of his neck and every other part of his body, then maybe this is the beginning of that. And at least now, if he's going to slim down and he's got more focus on, maybe if he's got Oscar desires now, maybe if he had this great performance in this movie, he goes, okay, I no longer want to be this fast and furious actor. I want to be, maybe a serious actor. And so he's changing his physique. This might mean that we don't have to worry about him coming back and having a match, if he's changed physically this much. Because I don't need his ass back. I certainly don't. I don't need Brock Lesnar back either. But if Rock is to change up his body so much, maybe we don't ever have to worry. Now maybe WWE is saying, all right, we don't have to worry about this stupid Roman Reigns match or anything else that The Rock might do. He might be legitimately done. And he does look a lot smaller now. He's only down to, if he drops 60 pounds, what does that make him down to? Like 190, 200? Like, that's crazy. He's only 200 pounds? That's nuts. That's absolutely nuts. So The Rock has really, really gotten himself in some shape there. I think that's kind of cool. Here's a story for you guys. My God. So, did you see this stuff about Wade Barrett and Nikki Bella? So Nikki Bella wrestled at, Clash in Paris against Becky Lynch, right? And her and Brie have got that stupid podcast. And there was a clip floating around where Nikki on the podcast was talking about how she was upset about what Wade Barrett said about her in the pre-show. And she's like, so Wade Barrett completely ignored me on Raw. He wouldn't make eye contact me with anything. And I was really upset about what he said at the pre-show. And I just didn't understand that, why he said that. And that's one good thing about Michael Cole is that he takes our life story and he puts it into what we do. I don't even know what that fucking means, for starters, Nikki Bella. And second, I had to immediately go back and find out what Wade Barrett said. In the pre-show to Clash in Paris, he said something to the effect of, Nikki Bella is desperate to prove that she's still got it. But for some reason, Nikki Bella only heard Nikki is desperate. And she was like, I was in the back getting ready and tying my shoes, and I hear this. And I'm like, I was really surprised by that. And then on Monday, he avoided me all day. He didn't make eye contact with me at all. And I'm just like, what the fuck? So Wade Barrett responds to all this in a tweet and said, and I quote, I had no idea Nicole felt this way, and I'm happy to have this conversation anytime she likes. I wish she'd brought it up when we said hello to each other at Raw instead of her podcast. I don't understand the avoiding claim at all. Simply not true. He then followed up with a tweet later that says, great news, fight fans. Great news. Great news, fight fans. Nikki and I have spoken. We've smoothed things over, and I've graciously been allowed back into the Bella Army. Fully paid up member since FCW 2008. A difference of perspective to which we are all entitled, but to be clear, some of the personal abuse that gets sent to Nikki on here is reprehensible and completely out of line, so let's cut that out immediately. So fans ran to jump up Nikki's ass. And obviously I'm giving her shit, but I'm not trying to spew hate on her. But she said something pretty dumb a few weeks back on her podcast too. Where she said something about, they don't get it. They don't get it. We get it, girl. I get it. I get it. I've been watching for 25 years before you even showed your face in a bikini contest. I get it. Trust me, Nikki. And so whatever she said there, I can't even remember, but that really bugged me, and then she was like, and he avoided me. And Michael Cole, the way he tells our life story, it's just, oh my God. It's like every eye rolling GIF I can find on Twitter, the Judge Judy one, the Ryan Reynolds one, the Robert Downey Jr. one, everyone that's on there. It's like, oh brother, Jesus Christ, Nikki. And Wade, even calling her out saying, why didn't you just bring this up to me? And when you go back and watch what Wade Barrett said, he is in character. He's a heel commentator, and he wasn't even saying anything bad. So I'm thinking that Nikki Bella, because there was a few headlines out there that said, Wade Barrett calls Nikki desperate, which is not what he did. But maybe she just read one of those headlines and reacted to that, but she claimed she was backstage listening or watching the pre-show. And then when Wade Barrett said that, she got all offended. What the fuck? What are you talking about? That's hardly the worst thing anybody's ever said on a pre-show. They're talking about your match with Becky. They're in character. And Wade Barrett mentions that he believes you're desperate to prove that you can still do it and still compete. Why is that? That's not an insult. That means you're driven. I think maybe he shouldn't have used the word desperate. Maybe he used the word motivated. She's motivated and determined to prove that she's still got it. So at the very worst, he could have changed the word, but Nikki really got that upset about the word desperate. And just when I hear her talk to Brie, they're these two geniuses. It's and Michael Cole did a really good job. I'm like, oh my God, fucking just a fork or knife just saw my ears off, please. So she went on to say that. Wade Barrett responded, and apparently the two of them finally talked. I feel bad that Wade Barrett even had to have this conversation, and then he had to kind of probably like indulge her and like pretend to be sorry when he's probably not. He just wants to keep the peace, you know? But like if I was him, I would have been like, are you fucking stupid? Like what the hell? You know, I hope that he at least said, okay, I see where you're coming from, but you see where I'm coming from, you know? Like, why did you say that on your podcast? Why did you have to say it there? You couldn't have just texted me? Dude, did you really call me desperate on the pre-show? Oh, no, I meant nothing by that. And then let's just hash it out and talk about it. But she brings it up on her podcast and just creates an issue that wasn't even there. And all that's going to do is incite more hate towards her. Like, I don't hate Nikki Bella. She just annoys me. I think she's one of the most gorgeous women that's ever fucking existed. You guys know how I used to feel about her. But my God, she's insufferable to like listen to speak. And so Wade then follows up even more because we got some news about the WWE commentary teams. So Joe Tessitore, I guess, is going to be having to take time off because college football is starting. So last night on Smackdown, we saw Michael Cole and Corey Graves on the call. So who's the teams now? Who's on Monday nights and who's normally on Monday nights and who's normally on Smackdown? Help me out. But Michael Cole and Corey Graves were on Smackdown last night. Apparently Tessitore is going to be off whatever show he's on for a short time, I guess Smackdown. And then it's going to be what? Cole and Barrett on Raw. Is Cole going to do double duty again? But then it was announced or reported that Wade Barrett was going to be off TV. He's off the commentary team. And this was a report from, I don't know if it was PW Insider or who it was. I forgot. I didn't write it down. But they reported that Wade Barrett is no longer going to be a part of the commentary team. So fans apparently must have started targeting Nikki Bella. And who the hell is that? Basically blaming Nikki for Wade Barrett being taken off commentary. So Wade Barrett quickly responded to this in another tweet where he said, and I quote, "I usually ignore BS reports like this, but it's causing needless hate to be spewed towards people I work with. WWE has kindly given me a couple of weeks off for personal time, booked 9 months ago, and then I'm back to business as usual, a complete non-story, the end." So apparently Wade Barrett's time off is only temporary, but that's going to coincide with, I think, Tessitore being off. So it might be Cole and Graves doing double duty for a couple of weeks, and then Barrett will go back to Raw, right? Yeah, Cole and Graves are doing basically both shows. Michael Cole and Corey Graves were Raw's team. So see, I watch every week and I still don't know this stuff. So Corey and Michael were Raw's team. They were, but where's Barrett? Is Barrett on SmackDown then? Oh, Barrett's on SmackDown with Tessitore, Cole and Graves on Monday. That's what it is, right? Okay. So Cole and Graves were on SmackDown last night because Tessitore is off for college and Barrett has been given some time off. So I guess they're going to work both shows is how that's going to go. So that's good news because when I did initially read that report about Wade Barrett being off the commentary team, I didn't think it had anything to do with Nikki Bella, but I was still upset about that. I'm like, I like him. I don't want him to go anywhere. So, I'm glad that Nikki and Wade have worked all of that out. But once again, Nikki Bella should have just not said anything because it was a non-issue and you got butthurt over absolutely nothing. Speaking of commentary teams, we got some changes to AEW's commentary team as well, as Tony Khan has announced that Bryan Danielson will be joining the AEW Dynamite commentary team permanently. So he's going to be on the commentary team on Wednesday. I don't know if it's going to be him, Taz, and Tony, or if it's going to be him, Taz, and Ian, and then Tony and Nigel and I guess Excalibur. So maybe it's Excalibur. How do you do it? Excalibur, Taz, Danielson, and then you do Schiavone and Nigel. And who else am I missing? And maybe Ian. Ian Riccaboni's got to be in there somewhere. So I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but Danielson is joining the AEW commentary team, and I think that's great. It means we get to see Bryan Danielson, and seeing Bryan Danielson is always very, very fun. Hey, let's talk about this. Let's talk about the human suplex machine, Taz. Now, of course, AEW just now, tonight, finished up its residency in the 2300 Arena. I'm pretty sure they're done after tonight, right? And we learned a week ago, after the first Dynamite in the 2300 Arena, after the show went off the air, Tony Khan in the AEW locker room came out unannounced, all wearing Taz t-shirts, and surprised Taz to let him know that he's going to be honored and tributed and inducted into the 2300 Arena Hall of Fame. And they were going to do this on Collision, which was last week's Collision. But then they changed it. They said, nope, it's not going to happen on Collision anymore. It's going to happen on Dynamite on Wednesday. Great. We're going to do it on Dynamite on Wednesday. That's going to have better ratings anyway. More eyeballs are going to be on that show. And then earlier on in the day, it was announced again that they've changed it a third time. And you get a video from Tony Khan and Taz together in one of those backstage trailers at the AEW Arena, where they were saying that now Taz's tribute is not going to be taking place on the show, but it's going to be taking place before the show and posted up on social media. And for some reason, this upset a lot of people. The reason this was done was apparently Taz's call. Taz had said, I don't want to take away TV time from these young stars. I don't want to be the center of attention on television. You know, I'd rather have that time go to talent who needs it and can use it. And it's very commendable from Taz. Some people push back on that, including Dave Meltzer, who tweeted Taz and said something like, dude, I understand that, but your legacy should also be important. And it's also important to remember that type of stuff. And so it seemed like there was a lot of debate about it. But why are we debating? This is Taz's moment. I think Bully Ray even spoke up and said something. And Taz was like, how are any of you guys going to tell me how to handle my moment? This is my moment. So what's the difference to you if I don't do it on TV or not? And it's not like they were doing it completely blind. This got posted to social media. I'm sure there's a lot more views on the YouTube video. I don't know for sure, but then there were maybe that on the rating that Dynamite got. So if you're going to post it on social media and it's going to be on YouTube and Twitter and Instagram and all over the place, what's the difference if you do it on TV or not? As long as the fans can access it, that's all that should matter in 2025. It's not like if you can't have it on Dynamite, you're not going to see it at all. You can still see it. So in terms of it not being on TV, number one, that's Taz's call. And who am I to give him shit for that? He can do whatever he wants with his moment. But at the same time, it's not even really taking that much away from him. He's trying to do the right thing. He's trying to exhibit some behavior that you often don't see from legends. A lot of times legends can't let go. A lot of times legends want to hang on to the spotlight longer than they need to. And they don't want to give attention and exposure to the younger generation because they are still hanging on to past glory. Taz has always seemed completely content in his retirement. At ECW One Night Stand, that's the closest we ever got to him doing anything physical in the last 22 years. When was he like pretty much out of the ring? 03, 04? When was his last match? You guys help me out. I have no idea. When was his last match in WWE? I feel like it's got to be 02 or 03-ish or something like that. But even by 02, he was on Smackdown. He was commentary with Michael Cole. Even in 2001, I think. Because I remember that New Year's Eve show where they were him and Michael Cole were at Sunday Night Heat or at the WWE New York or wherever they were for the Sunday Night Heat show. I don't know. But he's been out of the ring for what, a quarter century? And he's really always seemed content with that. No one more match, no one final appearance. He didn't come back to work a program or anything like that. He's a big dude. Knees are bad. Just physically, I don't think was even capable of doing that. The closest we got, like I said, was 2005 when who'd he choke out at One Night Stand? I forgot. Angle? Was it Angle? I don't remember. But he choked out somebody, and that was the only time we ever really saw Taz get physical in the ring after, 2001-ish, I suppose. So he's trying to be gracious here. He's trying to not make himself the center of attention, which you have to admire. So instead, before Dynamite went on the air, they had a nice little ceremony. Tony Khan was out there. Taz was out there with, I think, his wife and Hook. And they unveiled the banner that would hang on the wall in the 2300 Arena, Hardcore Hall of Fame, Taz 2025, and he got his moment. And it was perfectly fine. It was nice to watch that. It was nice to see Taz get honored there. But he really did feel like he was somewhat uncomfortable with the whole thing because he didn't know they were all coming out to surprise him last week. And then there was a couple of delays there, and then he didn't want it to be on TV. And I even had a weird theory because I remember a couple of months ago, we were talking about the possibility of Hook maybe going to WWE. Maybe Taz and Hook's contracts are coming up with AEW, and maybe they're going to go re-sign with WWE, and Taz is going to go to WWE to become an announcer again to allow his son to get his foot in the door in NXT and in developmental and maybe getting him some of that training and have Hook in WWE. Let's just say hypothetically, this is something that privately Taz and his son have talked about. And they're telling themselves, hey, when our contracts are up, let's go there. And you can work in the PC and you can, get world-class training there and really help improve your game. And that might be what's best for our careers. And then Tony Khan springs this on you. Now you're going to feel guilty. Hey, my contract is up in 6 months and I'm going to leave this man. And now he's tributing me and raising my banner in the 2300 Arena. I would feel a little guilty. Tony Khan's a nice guy. He's paying me very well. He's been nothing but wonderful to me and my family. And now he's honoring me, giving me an unsolicited tribute at the 2300 Arena and going through all this trouble. A guy who owns football teams and soccer teams and wrestling companies, got so much shit going on, and he took time out of his life to plan this tribute for me. Now I feel like an asshole. So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe Taz's like, I don't want the spotlight. I don't want any of this, because I'm going to disappoint you in a few months when I tell you I'm leaving. I don't know. It's just a thought I had in my head that if I was in Taz's shoes and I was going to WWE, I would feel a little bit awkward. Now, you still got to do what you got to do. Business is still business, but I would feel bad. If I had to tell Tony Khan right after he bent over backwards to honor my career, sorry, I'm going to go work for the company that's actively trying to destroy you. He might feel weird about it. But either way, nice moment for Taz. I hope they can do this for more people. I don't really want to see any more Dynamites in the 2300 Arena. It's just too small, because they even tarped off the 2300 Arena. The arena, I swear, is bigger than that, but they're only utilizing 60% of it. I thought you could get more people in there. I always thought that you could put 1,500 to 2,000 in there in ECW's heyday, but I might be wrong about those attendance numbers. Can somebody Google Barely Legal? I can do it. Can somebody Google Barely Legal 1997 for us here? Let's do it. Let's do it in the podcast. Barely Legal 1997. All right. What is the attendance for that? Does it say? Oh, only 11. Okay, I'm wrong. Only 1,100. So I guess at capacity, because I think Dynamite only had 900. So they only had 200 less, 300 roughly less fans at a standard ECW PPV in the ECW arena than the 2300 Arena residency for AEW. I was thinking that it was way less, but it's not. It's not. All right, where's my notes? But anyway, congratulations to Taz. And your career was one of my favorites. You were very fun to watch back in ECW, and I remember everything about his career. Congrats. Congrats to Taz. Also, congratulations to Maxwell Jacob Friedman and Alicia Friedman. That's right, MJF and Alicia Atu tied the knot, I guess, yesterday. Weddings are usually on Saturdays, but I think a lot of these photos came out yesterday. And big wedding. I didn't even know him and Alicia were engaged, and I didn't even know they had a wedding on the calendar. They've only been together, can't be more than 2 years. Feels like it might be less. So just a couple of years together. They are now hitched and married. I like this because they go way back. MJF and Alicia Atu have had confrontations and interviews for going back almost 10 years now. And they've always had a relationship, and she's always been his Tits McGee. And he was already engaged. He had that super hot fiance that does all that tremendous artwork. Oh my God. she's really great and talented and what she can paint. I don't know what happened there, but MJF got up with Alicia. They were dating. They got engaged, and they are now officially married. Big wedding picture was floating around social media yesterday. You can see Tony Khan in this, right in the middle there. He's right front and center. It almost looks like it's like he's getting married. So Tony Khan is there with MJF and Alicia, of course. You see Tony Schiavone. You see Daniel Garcia. Jeff Jarrett and Karen Jarrett are in there. Right next to Alicia in the yellow, I believe that's Thunder Rosa. You also have Aubrey Edwards all the way there on the right-hand side in the pink. Kip Sabian and Penelope Ford are over there on the left-hand side. And right behind them, you can see Hangman Page, the man he's feuding with, totally shattering kayfabe and peeking behind the group there. But who gives a shit? I saw people giving Hangman Page crap for that. What would Bill Watts think of this? I don't know. What would Bill Watts think of WWE Unreal? Are you kidding me here? We're talking about a wedding. Hangman Page, he's just way in the back. But the fact that fans would even get upset about that, come on. It's 2025. Get a grip. But congratulations to Max and Alicia. I wish them all the best. Also, Hook appears to be back there. I don't know if I mentioned Hook, but Hook is back there somewhere as well. And then MJF's brothers or friends or whoever they are. So yeah, MJF and Alicia Atu are now married. Good for them. Oh, my God. It's funny when you take your time, you know, how your notes seem to never end, because I completely forgot about this story. Here's something else we got to talk about. How about this fella? Look at this guy. This fucking train wreck. Okay, so Matt Riddle, it was first reported a couple days ago in a tweet by Cultaholic that Matt Riddle no-showed an event. And I quote, Matt Riddle no-showed and ripped off a charity pro wrestling show on Sunday, August 31st. Riddle was booked to face Simon Miller, the nicest guy in the fucking world, at Global Wrestling Kingdom's A New Kingdom Rises event in Barnsley, England. Riddle, however, never traveled to the UK for the show and is yet to return the deposit paid to him by the promotion. The show was raising money for charities in support of survivors of domestic abuse and homeless veterans. Riddle then responded in an interview. He's got like red hair now. He's fucking nuts. And he responded, not an interview, in a video. And he says this, and I quote, I'm going to make this quick. By the way, he's high as all hell in both of these videos. I'm going to make this quick. GWK. The reason I didn't go is because you booked me a flight for Thursday for a show that was happening Sunday. And you said you were booking me meet and greets, other matches, and appearances. You did none of that. I had nothing scheduled, and I was going to sit in a hotel room for 2 days in London. I told you multiple times I can't do that or wouldn't do that, and I've got work for Friday and Saturday. And Thursday, I worked Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. And I told you I would fly to London Saturday evening. You said pay for it. I go, no, you pay for it. Take it out of my pay, whatever. You guys refused, so I flew to Miami and I wrestled there. All right? I never said I wouldn't pay you guys back. That's a lie. Also, this show wasn't a charity event. That's a lie. That was a last-second change. You also booked me the worst flight in history, bro. Middle seat, no meal, no checked bag. This is probably your last run. So his defense here is that there was a discrepancy in the flight. He wasn't going to go sit there for 2 days. And then when they said they were going to book a meet and greets, they didn't, so assuming he's telling the truth there, you can't really blame him for that, because I wouldn't want to sit in a hotel room in London for 2 days either. So you get that. And he's got other work. But if he didn't fly, I guess he would know his flight. If he didn't fly there, he knew what seat he was in. He was a middle seat and no meal. Airplanes give meals, I guess, if you're in first class, but are you even going to get it? Well, I guess a long flight overseas, yeah, I guess you probably would get a meal. He also claims that the event wasn't always a charity event. It had just been changed to a charity event where portions of the proceeds were going to go to benefit the domestic violence and abuse victims and homeless veterans. So apparently that wasn't always the deal. And apparently they even worked out the deposit too. And then he followed up with another video where he explains a little bit more, only this time now he's even more pissed. The first one, it wasn't like profanity laced. He was just giving his side of the story, which didn't even seem that crazy. And Matt Riddle is very crazy. Look at him. Listen to him talk. Watch his behavior. Watch how he flushed his career down the toilet. He's crazy, right? But he wasn't that crazy in that initial response. Here's the next one. By this time, he's 3 edibles in, and he's like, I could explain everything in great detail. I'm not lying, but I don't really give a fuck anymore. Most of you motherfuckers are dumb fucking cunts. Geez, just like when you believe that Me Too bullshit. That got him in some trouble because I think whoever he was booked with canceled his appearance. Just like when you believe that Me Too bullshit and all the other fucking garbage. You guys are all fucking dumb. It's fucking insane. It's fucking insane. Fucking believe these fucking creeps. Whatever, dog. At the end of the day, I'm going to keep getting booked. I'm probably going to start fighting again. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of other shit. Fucking crushing on OnlyFans because I've got a big fucking you-know-what. And I didn't read that far earlier. Oh, my God. He says that? Does he say this? I'm going to read that sentence again. I'm probably going to be doing a lot of other shit, fucking crushing on OnlyFans because I've got a big fucking you-know-what, and I'm nice as fuck, dude. Oh, yeah, you sound splendid here. You sound like just peachy. He's a nice as fuck dude. Everybody, if you don't like me, unfollow. Go fuck yourselves, all right? I don't give a fuck because at the end of the day, the cream fucking rises to the top, and I'm really, really tired of trying to be nice to everybody because I hate to break it to you, most of you guys are fucking morons. Peace. So that escalated quickly. He was relatively tame in that first response. He was defending himself, but he wasn't coming across as, like, outwardly nuts. Like, this is the video style, the way he's talking and everything. He's definitely, under the influence of something. But it was relative, like, if you just read that and you're like, okay, this is a he said, she said type of thing. And if what he is saying is true in that initial response, I can totally understand what he's talking about here. I'm not going to fly there 2 days early and sit around on my ass for 2 days when I can go make more money here in the States. I'm not going to do that. We got to work this out. And when they didn't, he decided not to go. I'm going to go work in Miami and do these other things. Fuck you guys. So as an independent contractor, I suppose he's got the right to do that, provided he returns the deposit and all of that, and he's not actively stealing from them. If it's not working out, and say, hey, you guys did not book me the flights I requested, and I've got other work. I can't be there 2 days early. And now you're telling me to pay for it? Sorry, this is not going to work out. Here's your deposit back. Have a nice life. And I don't remember where I read it, but I do believe that they did figure out the deposit thing. And in terms of his second response, though, it's off the rails. So I suppose, or I assume what was happening here is after that initial video, people are yelling at him and shitting on him and probably getting on his case. And he's reading that and getting madder about it. And a few more bong rips and a couple edibles later, this profanity-laced tirade comes out where he just sounds crazy. Now he's talking about the Me Too stuff, and Jesus. And as if that weren't enough, he also has a huge stick up his ass for some reason about CM Punk. It never ends with this guy. He was speaking to TMZ Sports about AJ Lee and CM Punk. Here's what he had to say, and I quote, to be fair, and I'm not one to talk, I'm a little slutty myself, but she did get around from what I heard. But no disrespect to that. That's his first sentence. So he doesn't know for sure because he wasn't there. He might see what he sees on WWE storylines, where she kissed Bryan Danielson and CM Punk in the same night or whatever the fuck it is. But AJ Lee and CM Punk have been married for 10 years. She's been out of the business for 10 years. How long did she have in the company to really get around? I think he's thinking of Paige. She got around. Paige got around. I don't necessarily know if AJ Lee did or not. I don't know who else she dated. I don't know if she dated Danielson and dated Dolph Ziggler and dated a bunch of guys before she landed on Punk. But Punk is slutty. Punk is slutty. Punk's dated everybody. He's Eskimo Brothers with Edge. Punk has had some, who else? Mickey James, maybe? Who else has Punk, been with? There's been, a lot of women, too. So Matt Riddle is, trying to slut shame, of all people, AJ Lee. And then he goes on to say, oh, hey, it's whatever. People like to hook up. That's the worst thing she did? Whatever, dude. I've done it, too. But yeah, no ill will towards anybody else. Why are you even talking about this? Do you even know these people? Has Matt Riddle ever met CM Punk? Has he ever met AJ Lee? Does he know who these people are at all? I mean, maybe he knows who Punk is. Was Punk in before Riddle got let go? When did Riddle get let go? How long has he been gone now? Feels like it's been 2 years, but I could be wrong. So what do you mean no ill will towards anybody else? What are you even talking about then? He ain't done. He then goes on to say, I have no ill will towards CM Punk. I bet he's a nice enough guy if you agree with it. But I don't know, and I think he's fake, and I think he's a creep, and that's coming from me. And people think I'm a creep. And I don't know. I feel like he's just, lingering around the NXT locker room a little bit too much. Oh, you mean being a mentor? That's so weird. Well, there's a lot of things about him. He was like Cora Jade as like his daughter and everything, and everybody he kind of oversees. I don't know. He's become a mentor in NXT and become a mentor in NXT. So I can that's one way of putting it. I don't know. He's rambling here about CM Punk. So he's got some jealousy issues here towards CM Punk that I don't understand at all. Apparently he's never met the guy. He doesn't know AJ Lee either. And he decides to just throw some random shade at them. And because CM Punk goes to NXT and mentors the young talent and takes pictures with some of the wrestlers, you think that's creepy? There's creepy men that exist, yes, but you can tell when men are creepy. CM Punk is not creepy. CM Punk is happily married with a smoking hot wife at home. He is a father figure or a mentor to these women. That Mick Foley was like that. Mick Foley was a magnet for the women because he was safe. They knew that they were safe with him. He wasn't ever going to try to fucking mac on them. Do people still say mac? I'm going to try to get with him. I'm going to try to sleep with him. Nothing like that. He's happily married to Colette. Punk's happily married to AJ Lee. He's safe. They're not uncomfortable around him. They wouldn't be taking pictures with him if he did. And there's nothing creepy about what CM Punk is doing. I walk my teenage hostesses out to their car every night after work because there's an alley behind the restaurant. And whenever one of them is leaving a little bit early, I'm like, hang on, I'm going to go with you, just in case. They're wearing their cute little dress if some asshole comes up. And I've actually seen that happen. Maybe a year or so ago, I walked one of our hostesses just to the parking lot, and there was a dude, a random stranger, laying on the hood of her car. Just randomly. Drunk off his ass. And I had to, get him out of there. What would she have done? What? Does that make me creepy? No. CM Punk is, the least creepy guy. He appreciates women. He fights for women's rights. All that stuff. He's pro-choice. All that kind of crap. So to insinuate that he's hanging around NXT for some sort of pervy intentions, his intentions are he wants Shawn Michaels' job. That's what he's doing, Matt Riddle, you fucking idiot. And what is your deal with him? Bro, why don't you pay attention to your own train wreck life and the career that you ruined? Your own career that you flushed down the toilet and your absolutely train wreck life. I'm glad that you and your big fucking know-what are making money on OnlyFans, but look at yourself. Look at yourself. You're a mess. You're a fucking mess. You're clearly not sober, 100% not sober. You got red hair now for some reason. You're like a teenage rebellious teenage girl, with a different color hair every week. And now you're just randomly releasing relatively normal sounding responses followed by a completely unhinged one. Then you'd go on an interview and you completely throw shade or attack two people that you don't even know. I heard she gets around. Where'd you hear this from? Where did you read this in High Times magazine? What the fuck are you talking about? What are you talking about? And now because you see pictures on social media of Punk taking photos at the Performance Center with recruits and NXT talent, and a lot of them are women, that your automatic thought, the first place your brain goes, is that it's something creepy? And at least he's self-admitted, I'm creepy, I'm slutty, so we know how his brain operates. That's the first thing he can think of. It's like fans who have never had or wrestling fans who have never had real meaningful relationships, and they see a male wrestler and a female wrestler having lunch. Are they together? No, they're fucking having lunch. What the fuck? What the fuck's wrong with you? They must be together. I'm like, a man and a woman can have lunch together without having to be married. Like, what the hell? Are you guys born in the 1700s? What the fuck's going on here? So the fact that that's the first place his brain goes is just a little bit weird. I hope Punk and AJ don't even bother with a response. At some point, they're going to be asked about it. I mean, I just hope Punk is like, who? Matt Riddle, that loser that flushed his whole fucking life down the toilet? I don't give a nut hair what he thinks. So I would completely blow it off if I was CM Punk or AJ. And, there's probably certain things you could say critical of Punk or AJ Lee, especially with, maybe the moral dilemma they're facing and getting back into bed financially with WWE, with everything they stand for compared to what they stand for. But to slut shame AJ Lee and say that Punk is a perv for hanging around NXT, that right there tells you exactly how Matt Riddle's brain operates. Tells you all you need to know. That's how he thinks. He ain't normal. He ain't normal at all. And I used to like Matt Riddle. I had high hopes for him. I liked the fact that he was a stoned idiot on TV. I love the fact that he got in Goldberg's face. Fuck you, Goldberg. I'll kick your ass. I love that about it. I loved it when he said he kicked Chris Jericho's ass. He goes, I'll kick your ass, Jericho. I loved that. So there's been plenty of times when Riddle being Riddle, I've actually enjoyed it. And I really like the Goldberg stuff when Goldberg was trying to act all tough around him. I'm like, please, Goldberg, please throw a punch. Please try to attack Matt Riddle. I would give my life savings to see that and watch you get your fucking ass annihilated. But this is just all kinds of crazy. It's sad, because Riddle could have been WWE champion. He was definitely good enough. He's a mess. Every now and then you get one of these guys. You get your Teddy Harts, and you get your guys that are just too far gone to be saved. And you have the same thing in pro sports in the NFL. Think about I don't want to say Aaron Hernandez. He's not a murderer, but I'm saying like people who have just Johnny Manziel. That's an example, not Aaron Hernandez. Johnny Manziel is another perfect example, and guys like him. There's been a few, but Johnny really stands out just because how he couldn't get out of his own way, couldn't give up the partying, couldn't give up that lifestyle. And with Riddle, he couldn't give up being a creep and smoking weed and doing all that shit, and now he's going to pass judgment and call other people creeps and other people sluts. Ay, Matt Riddle. So, yeah, that's the latest with Matt. Quick little tidbit. I guess NXT ran a show last night in Spartanburg, South Carolina. Our friend Cassidy Haynes at bodyslam.net was there, and I saw him post some pictures. Apparently, Ricky Starks faced Rusev and beat him. I think that match was for the TNT Championship. Did they have a match in AEW? I feel like they did. So Ricky Starks faced Rusev on NXT and beat him. That's weird. That's weird to me. Like Rusev just beat Sheamus, right? At Clash in Paris and that big blow off, and now he's going to NXT and he's losing to Starks in front of 19 people. That's weird. But also kind of cool. And it shows you that, WWE hopefully has got plans for Starks if they're having him pick up victories like this. So Starks with the win over Rusev last night in Spartanburg, South Carolina. I just wanted to mention that because I found that to be interesting. Juliet, I agree with you. Riddle has to want help, and he's obviously not there yet. Because we don't want a dark side of the ring on Riddle. I mean, I think Riddle is an ass for some of the things he said here, but there's also a big part of me that's liked Riddle. And there's a part of me that knows there's a likable side to him. But he's just, unfortunately, sometimes you get these type of people. You see it in life. You see it in sports. You get your Riddles. Some of us might have a friend, maybe even a family member. I know I do. That sometimes you're just like, are they ever going to learn? All you can do is hope that they do. That's all you can do. Is just hope that one day they get their act together before it's too late. And hopefully that'll be the case with Riddle. Let's hope so. Right on. Let's talk about, we are just plugging away. How long have we been going live here? We have been 2 hours and 40 minutes in, and I haven't even answered Super Chats yet. So send in your questions. We'll be getting to them. We got a few more things to get into before we move on to that. How about a Raw recap? Raw recap from this past Monday. I'm not going to talk much about it because a lot of it was setting up the AJ Lee return that we saw last night on SmackDown. But a couple of newsworthy tidbits coming out of Raw. Number one, Adam Pearce finally did make the announcement that we were expecting. It's not a huge surprise here, but Pearce announced that the Women's World Championship will be finally decided now that Naomi has forfeited the championship. And we were supposed to get a match at Clash in Paris, but they bumped it in favor of Becky and Nikki. And the feeling was they were probably doing that so they can crown their new champion at Wrestlepalooza and load up that card. That's exactly what they did. I thought they were going to do a triple threat and involve Rhea Ripley, but it's just going to be Io Sky one-on-one with Stephanie Vicaire for the vacant championship at Wrestlepalooza, and that match was made official. I believe in my heart that Io Sky will win that. My idea can still happen that I've been pushing for, and that is Io Sky winning the championship again. Unfortunately, it's going to have to be a short run. Go to Perth, Crown Jewel in Perth, to face Rhea Ripley for the championship in the main event, and Ripley not only beats Io Sky finally, but wins the championship belt back, and then carries it into WrestleMania to drop it to Stephanie Vicaire. I still feel like what I want isn't what I'm going to see, but I feel like they got to do something in Perth for Rhea Ripley. Crown Jewel, if that does not have a massive Rhea Ripley match on it, I'm going to be very surprised. So it feels like Io Sky and Ripley is going to have to be the match unless they put it on Stephanie, but I would wait for Stephanie. I think Stephanie is someone that needs to get that monumental pay-per-view moment, and I'm not sure if Wrestlepalooza would really be it. So I would have Io Sky win the title again and then drop it to Ripley. That's how I would do it, but that match is now official for the Palooza. In addition to the Punk and Becky Lynch stuff where they set up the AJ Lee return, we also had AJ Styles challenging Dominic for the Intercontinental Championship. And this was, again, interrupted by El Grande Americano. Shows up and interrupts a phenomenal forearm and headbutts AJ Styles like right in the chest, allowing Dom to go up and hit the frog splash for the win and retain the Intercontinental Championship. But it sounds like this issue isn't quite over yet, so this was not a complete blow-off, and we might actually still get another chance for AJ to win the Intercontinental Championship. We will have to see. The main event was a tag match that was set up earlier on in the night with LA Knight and Jey Uso. They were interrupted by Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker, who were dogs off the leash because Paul Heyman was selling the choke out from Roman Reigns, so he wasn't on Raw. So they set up a tag team main event match, Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker versus LA Knight and Jey Uso. Of course, the heels got the win. Big spear from Breaker to Jey Uso for the win. Big post-match attack on both guys. LA Knight's knocked out. Jey Uso's knocked out. We get a tsunami onto Jey Uso until finally Jimmy Uso runs out to make the save. And as the show goes off the air, Jay is saying something to the effect like, I can't do it alone. I can't do it alone. So it sounds like we're really close to an Usos reunion here. And we might even be getting the Usos versus Breaker and Reed at Wrestlepalooza. I'm not really sure. I was hoping the Usos would reunite to take the titles from New Day, but New Day lost the titles. So don't know when that's going to happen. But that was pretty much all we saw on Raw. Was it a Finn Balor and Dragon Lee match, or was that a tag? Nothing worth noting. Decent wrestling and stuff, but just nothing compelling. Nothing that's must see. Oh my God, I gotta see. I gotta go back and watch Raw last week. I was only interested in what Becky and Punk did, and that was it pretty much on Raw. Last night on Smackdown, we had a little more to be excited about, but in terms of Raw, they were in Paris in that big, huge, beautiful arena with those loud-ass fans, but, overall, Raw was just Raw. Nothing too great there. So here's what we have set, I guess, for Wrestlepalooza, right? We've got John Cena versus Brock Lesnar. We're going to have Io Sky versus Stephanie Vicaire for the vacant Women's World Championship. And we're going to get the mixed tag, AJ Styles, AJ Lee, and CM Punk taking on Becky Lynch and Seth Rollins. What else are we going to get? What else were we talking about earlier? There's got to be more. I feel like there's got to be either a Tiffany Stratton match. No, maybe not. Not with the other one. What else are they setting up on TV right now? What am I forgetting? I feel like I'm missing a big one here for Wrestlepalooza. One match that we're not going to get, it sounds like, is Cody Rhodes versus Drew McIntyre. That match was originally set for Wrestlepalooza, but Cody hasn't been on TV. He might be filming Street Fighter. He just had his second daughter, but they could also do that at Crown Jewel. So it remains to be seen if Drew and Cody face, but I don't think it'll be at Wrestlepalooza. If anything, it'll be Randy Orton and Drew McIntyre at Wrestlepalooza. And in addition to that, we might get a tag match from the Raw brand, but I don't know. Oh, Tiffany is facing Jade on SmackDown. That's right. I did say that. I did see that get set up as well. So Wrestlepalooza, you're probably only looking at 5 or 6 matches again, and we already have 3 to 4 of them kind of booked. So there's only going to be room for a couple more matches anyway. And so that's what we have for Wrestlepalooza. Let's switch gears now to Dynamite, but I'm going to go grab a fresher beverage. Just give me 2 seconds real quick. Yeah, just wanted a little bit of a fresher one here. Stretch my legs a second. Get the chat caught up. We're good. If anybody hasn't hit that thumbs up button yet, I would appreciate it. As now I head into my next birthday, which is going to be 49. And next year is going to be even harder than this one, guys. My God. All right, let's talk a little bit about AEW Dynamite this past week. Now, Dynamite, of course, was back in the 2300 Arena. And I'm glad this was only a 2-week residency. That Chicago one was way too long. And I think this one is pretty much over now. And that's good because this was just, it was too small. It was just too small. I really like the 2300 Arena. I'm glad they went there. I'm glad they ran a show there, but I think I would have done it a little differently. I would have booked this residency for a different time in the year, like an off time, and I certainly wouldn't put it right after a pay-per-view. And then I would also, book matches kind of tailor-made for this arena, and make this a special event, make this a special Dynamite for a couple of weeks where you have matches specifically booked for this audience and this crowd. But it was just kind of like there. And it was cool. It was cool to be back in that ECW arena. They fixed it up all nice, and they did their best to make the most out of that small space that they had. But I just thought it was way, way, way too small of a crowd there. But, it was still kind of cool that they went there, and I'm hoping that that's the only time they visit the 2300 Arena, unless they go back there for some sort of a special event. But Dynamite was pretty wild. I actually enjoyed Dynamite. I mean, probably the show I enjoyed the second most this week, because it's really hard to, not mark out over what we saw last night on SmackDown and the return of AJ Lee. But Dynamite was pretty solid as well, because we had some funny things go down on it. And it opened up with Gabe Kidd calling out Darby Allin. Darby comes out, they brawl, they're all over the place. We get Moxley out there, Claudio and Marina all arrive on the scene to kind of corner Darby, until he then gets some help from Hook. So you got the Hook symbol up on the wall, and he's coming out to that really weird new song that's still just a little bit hard to get used to. But before he can come out there, the Ops run out. The Ops run through, and they run past him into the ring. Willow Nightingale is out there as well, brawling. And we get this big-ass brawl. Gabe and Darby find themselves fighting all the way into the backstage area. Gabe Kidd tries to kill Darby with a hammer, but he misses. Darby then throws powder in his face and winds up zip-tying Gabe Kidd into a body bag, which is tied to the back of a pickup truck, and drags him away. So that was the way that reminded me of Hogan being drugged behind that motorcycle of the Undertaker's. So Darby drug away Gabe Kidd. It sounds like Mox and Darby, I think, Juliet, you mentioned it, that it is official for All In, which we figured it would be. And they did follow up after this with an interview with the Ops by Renee Paquette, where she did ask them where they stand with Hook. And Hook showed up, and he's a little bit upset that they replaced him. You replaced me with Hobbs before my body was even cold. And Hobbs like, what the fuck is your problem, dude? I've always had your back. And Joe was like, dude, it's simply opportunity. There was an opportunity. Hobbs stepped up, and it was my call. I made the call to include him in the group. And whether you like it or not, at some point you're going to need our backs, and we're going to have your backs. So Joe is trying to explain to Hook, look, it's just the way it went. You got hurt. We did what we had to do here. But you're still our brother. We still love you, and we're still going to watch your back when need be. But Hook doesn't seem to be having it. He's a little bit upset. Mercedes Moné successfully defended her TBS title in a pretty decent match against Alex Windsor. Starting to love this Alex Windsor. She's great. We had a really long statement maker that Windsor did not tap out to. Instead, Mercedes had to kind of roll her over to get the pin and retain the TBS title. After the match, Windsor tries to shake hands with Mercedes, but Mercedes refuses, and she then gets attacked by Alex Windsor, who knocks Mercedes on her ass, but Mercedes has the belt. She hits Alex Windsor with the belt, puts her back into the statement maker when, of all people, Riho makes her return to AEW. We hear that old Riho music. She comes out, she runs in, she stomps Mercedes, and then she delivers this crazy drop kick to Mercedes that knocks her right out of the ring. And I like that. Riho versus Mercedes Moné at All Out. Hell yeah. Welcome back, Riho. I've not seen her in so long. I have no idea when the last time she worked a match. They said many, many months on commentary, but I feel like it's been many, many years since she's been in there. But good to see Riho back, and I'm assuming that it is going to set up a match at All Out. I kind of hope that it does. After that, we had Ricochet and the Gates of Agony. They're challenging the Hurt Syndicate to a match or a confrontation at All Out. Later on, MVP responds by saying, hell yeah, we'll do it. I'll join my brothers in combat, and we'll take you on. So it sounds like it's going to be Ricochet and the Gates of Agony taking on the entire Hurt Syndicate in a six-man at All Out. Mark Briscoe defeated Lance Archer. One-on-one, Froggy Bow for the win there. Nothing too important to mention. Toni Storm had a great promo where she promises to be the most batshit to ever piss in the sink and asks any woman to step up. So who do you think is going to be her opponent for All Out, if she's even going to have one? Because I don't know who they haven't really been teasing anyone that I can think of. Although she had to match tonight with like Tekla. It could be Tekla. Oh, that would be cool if it was. What happened in that match? Did they further anything on Collision tonight? Because if Toni Storm is going to have a title defense at All Out, I'd like to know who that's going to be against. And I like the idea of Tekla, actually. It might be her. We'll have to see. Also, tag team title was also on the line. 2 title matches on Wednesday night. Brodito, successful over Claudio Castagnoli and Wheeler Yuta. They had an assist from Darby Allin in that match to retain the championship. And Kazuchika Okada was interviewed as well, Renee asked him about his tension with Takeshita. And he basically just says that he's the top dog in the Callis family, bitch. And I forgot how Okada pronounces his name. Takeshita. I think he calls him Takeshita. And they've been teasing some tension between them recently, and they're obviously going to set up for a match somewhere. I think that would be a great like World's End match, because first, Takeshita is getting a shot at the IWGP Championship coming up soon, right? Isn't he facing Zack Sabre Jr. for the championship at some point soon? I forgot where. So he's got that coming up, I believe. So he's not going to like take any losses prior to that, I wouldn't think. So if you did it at All Out, if you did Okada and Takeshita at All Out, I would want Takeshita to win. But I'm not sure if he would in that situation. So I don't know. All I know is eventually whenever we get that Takeshita and Okada match, I'm really going to be looking forward to that. And I hope they build this well. I hope they get creative in the build, because, neither guy, has got the greatest English, obviously, but both guys have just a tremendous amount of presence to them. And I think if you build this up in the right way, you can really get the fans excited about this showdown when it finally does happen. Because, if they go all out, no pun intended, and on any pay-per-view, that's going to be a really, really fun match to watch whenever that goes down. But I don't know if they're going to do it while they're still full-fledged members of the Callis family, or if one of them is going to have to be thrown out in order for the match to happen. It just depends on how long they want to stretch this out, to where if, they want this match to be at World's End, then you can prolong this a little bit, and eventually maybe Takeshita is pushed out of the Callis family in favor of Okada, and you get the match there. Or Don Callis does the Bobby Heenan thing with Harley racing Haku and waits to see who wins and goes with the winner. Might be something like that. But at some point, we're going to get Okada and Takeshita, and that's going to be sweet. Copeland and Christian had another brawl with FTR. They were out there brawling. Dax got all busted up, and they pile drove some developmental guys out there. There's a very good chance that match is going to main event at All Out. I think it might, especially if Fletcher is taking on Hangman, and it's in Toronto. I still think it should be for the championships, but it's not. And in the main event on Dynamite, we had Kyle Fletcher, Josh Alexander, and the Young Bucks defeating Hangman Page, Kenny Omega, and Jet Speed. And the show ended with basically an injury angle to write Kenny Omega off of TV. He was pile-driven by Fletcher through it. Was it a pile driver, right? Or no, not a pile driver. His brain buster. So Fletcher gives him his brain buster from the apron through the table. Kyle got his back all cut up, and Kenny Omega was completely laid out. He was laid out and done, and they had to come out and stretcher him out. And the best part about this was the videos that were surfacing of Tony Khan out there all pissed off, and the way he's just storming out of the ring. I was laughing so hard. I do not understand the hate for this man. I absolutely love that he looks goofy as all hell doing completely normal things. You know, Eli Manning was sometimes like that. You know, he's got this like aw shucks type of thing about him where he's just so funny sometimes. And Tony Khan, I just got such a kick out of that. The way he's just like stomping around there about to whoop some ass is just hilarious. I went back and watched that video like 3 or 4 times. I couldn't stop laughing at how funny he looked when he was all mad. He was storming back there to ream somebody out, but obviously very mad about what happened to Kenny Omega. And what happened to him apparently was just a way to write him off of television because he's going to be taking even more time off. And Kenny Omega, much like AJ Styles and John Cena and Hiroshi Tanahashi, he's winding down too. And at some point, we're going to have to talk about a final match for Kenny Omega. We're going to have to talk about a final match for Cope and Christian. A lot of guys having their final matches soon, I would think, in the next couple of years. And Kenny Omega, it'd probably be no different. So Kenny's going to take some more time off, and hopefully we see him down the road again at some point. And all the best to Kenny Omega in his current AEW hiatus. So I missed all of Collision. It was on there, but I didn't see who. I'm assuming Moxley beat Daniel Garcia again. I don't know if Fletcher laid down a challenge to Hangman or not, but I feel like that's going to be the match we get. Tommy Billington was in action tonight on Collision, which is cool to see him back. And I don't know who won the big match with Tony, Mina Shirakawa, Statlander, and Harley against the Triangle of Madness and Megan Bayne. So let me know the results there if you know. And we had Briscoe taking on Takeshita as well, but I don't know who won that either. So I don't know anything about Collision tonight, but I did see a little bit about what happened last week. And I don't know if they followed up with this on Collision tonight or not, but they're doing like a cloning angle with hologram, right? And is it Arez? What's the fella's name that's going to be the clone? It's his old partner from Mexico. I think it's Arez. I think it's Arez is the name. But anyway, hologram after a win over Jay Lethal last week, they teased, like a clone of hologram showing up. So he's going to be facing himself. Some SummerSlam 1994 shit coming your way. That's going to be pretty fun. So here's what we have for All Out. We've got Hangman Page probably versus Kyle Fletcher. We've got Cope and Christian versus FTR. Probably going to get Mercedes versus Riho as well. Also Hurt Syndicate versus Gates of Agony. I'm assuming we're going to get maybe a match with Tony Storm and the championship. And who else? Okay, thank you for that delayed grats. They did tease the clone or the Klon tonight on Collision. I'll go back and catch a few of those highlights later on. Yeah. Reading through. Yeah, so I didn't catch the let me go over here. Pick up those results. There they are. Yeah, Moxley over Garcia, FTR over Billington and Adam Priest. We had... Okay, so the babyfaces did win. Tony Storm, Mina Shirakawa, Statlander, and Cameron won that match. And that's when I was watching earlier. Jamie Hayter came out to make the save. That's right. Okay, so and then Fletcher was out there. It looks like he did mention that he wants a shot at Hangman Page. So that's good. And then Takeshita did defeat Mark Briscoe with help from MJF. All right. Something, a little segment too with Jerry Lynn and Anthony Bowens. All right, so Collision looked pretty decent, and they did follow up with the cloning thing, with the hologram clone that apparently is heading our way soon. Right on. Well, at exactly the 3-hour mark, I have finally reached the end of my notes, which means I can now answer all these super chats, and I'm going to go over to the post that I put up on YouTube the other day and see what kind of questions that the channel members dropped in there. In the meantime, it's a good time to mention to go over to my Patreon page. It's down below, and subscribe to it. It's completely free. I'm about to start posting some videos out over there. I've got a bunch done, or almost done, that I'm going to start posting over there completely for free. Match reactions and things like that. So go subscribe to the Patreon channel. No money whatsoever. No money down. It's going to cost you. I'm going to make that a free account for a little while until we build up some subscribers. And then once we do, we'll start worrying about doing tiers and whatnot. But I wanted a place to, post some reactions because I have a lot of them that I can make and edit and produce. And I wanted a place to dump those. And so Patreon is going to be the place. Go over there and subscribe. You're going to see some videos arriving there in the next few days and weeks as I am working on that. I'm going to go all the way to the beginning here. I'm going to pull up the master list here of the comments because I can only scroll up so far. And let's get some questions answered and see what you guys had to say in the super chats. Where the hell are they? There they are. Oh, before we get going here, I got to show you guys this. This is a trip. And thank you for all these birthday messages. Elizabeth is notorious for buying me very weird, not weird, but kind of funny and amusing birthday gifts. Here's what I found waiting for me when I woke up today. You ready? Here it comes. Money in the Bank. She bought me a Money in the Bank briefcase. These things open. So they open. You can put like Ritz crackers in here like Kramer. There's my contract, my WWE contract for my championship match. Shit's got keys with it. And I laughed so hard. It was the funniest present. And it's kind of funny because I'm literally just about to drastically minimize this YouTube background. As a matter of fact, those bottom shelves, as you see right there, I've already removed everything from down here, and this top portion is going to remain up here for another week or so, just so I can have it in the background before I break all that down too. And then my new setup is going to be pretty much me straight ahead with some shelves behind me and some decorations behind me. It's going to be a much simpler setup, LED lights and a lot of cool stuff planned, but not nearly as much room to put all this stuff. So I'm just going to have a couple small shelves behind me of some decoratives and championship belts and things like that. I'm going to light it and design it. I've already got all the plans drawn up because I know the dimensions and the layout of the bedroom that I'm going to be in, or that we're going to be in, and how I'm going to do it. And so now I've got this brand new big prop. So in the new setup, I'm going to try to put the briefcase somewhere up there if I can, and at least have it visible for a little while. But it's something I never would have bought on my own. I never would have bought myself a Money in the Bank briefcase, but it might look good in the background or something. So once again, Elizabeth never ceases to crack me up, and she bought me that, and of course hooked me up with all the massages and nice pampering, and she bought me beverages and food and candy and all this shit, and now I got a Money in the Bank briefcase where I can keep all my Ritz crackers when I'm working 9 to 5, and that's very important. So I can also cash that thing in on any of y'all. So I'm telling you right now, If one of y'all go out and start winning world championships, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you. Especially you, Zane. If I see you with gold, if I see you with a belt, Zane, you're going down. You won't even see me coming. I'm going to come from behind, steel chair right to the back of your head, and I'm going to take your championship. Now, I would not hit you in the back of the head. I would not do that, but I would definitely cash in on you. Doug, I would definitely cash in on you. Oh, Rodrigo in a heartbeat. Juliet, I would even cash in on you. Intergender cash in. Don't go winning no championships. That goes for all you women. I'll cash in. I'm not afraid. All right, let's go back to the beginning here and see where I can start hitting these super chats. I owe one from a while ago. A thank you to Spartan Sprinkles dropping in 5. Telling me, happy birthday, Grandpappy Greg. You look great for 60. Why, thank you. No, it makes me shit an absolute cinder block is the thought of me turning 60 in 12 years. I feel like I'm 25. Not 60. And it's creeping up. Like, I only have time in my life for like 2 more pets. Once Tito dies, I'll get another pet. They'll live 10-ish to 15 years and die. And then I'll probably get one more pet. And then I'm going to die. Any pets after that, they're going to outlive me. Yikes. But anyway, I digress. But I digest. Zane G, thank you so much, bro, for the $10. Sorry for saying I would hit you with a chair in the head and steal your title, and here you are giving me money. I'm an asshole. What can I say? I have a bone to pick, which I don't understand when a wrestler in AEW gets released and returns to WWE and ends up putting over other talents, and they wonder why they're not in the title scene. Well, you might be referring to, are you talking about the Rusev match, or I don't know what you're talking about, but it's not really up to them, like they're just going to be booked. You might be talking about Aleister Black. I don't know. But I do get what you're saying. I used to have the same similar thoughts back in the day when people would jump from WWF to WCW. And I kind of had the same thought process, but a lot of times, like what we're seeing here, if it looks like one company has fumbled a person and then they go to the other company and they're not doing any better there, then who's really to blame here? Is it the promoters or is this the person not interesting or compelling? So I think it just depends on the person. But if you jump to WWE or get released and then go to WWE and then you put over other talents, I mean, you're going to have to lose matches. Hold on. I'm hearing noises. I'm thinking Tito is yakking. He might be puking. Anyway, but yeah, I get it. If you're released and then you go back and putting over talents, but that's kind of just the way it goes. It just depends on who you are. Depends on the level of star you are. Depends on, if you're connecting with the fans. Like if you come back after being in AEW and you return to WWE and your response is just kind of mediocre. Is WWE really going to bend over backwards for you? You just came from the competition. They might, I don't know. I think each situation is different individually, and it's probably not the same for everyone. Is my guess. Sammy, what's up, bro? Thanks for the 5. Why you hate NXT? Everyone still enjoys NXT. It is good. NXT is good right now. Better than 2 years ago. You and Solid Monster and Just Alex hate NXT. Well, I'm glad to see that my friends Solid Monster and Just Alex hate NXT too. I don't hate NXT like I hate the wrestlers. I don't. I just don't like the product is not for me. The product might be for some other fans. It's not for me. It's not made for me. But it's a great place to breed the main roster stars. When I say I hate NXT, I don't hate Obafemi. I don't hate Jordan Grace. I love them. I'm ready for them to get to the main roster. But in terms of, where I am in my life, watching wrestling for over 40 years now, I don't need to be dialed in and keyed in on every single fucking recruit. I don't need to know what every person is doing. I'm at the stage of my life, I'm going to wait for them to become a big thing before I'm going to start paying attention. I'm not going to waste my time, following somebody or learning about somebody's career who's yet to prove themselves. Once they start proving themselves, they start gaining ground, gaining a reputation, gaining a following, gaining some exposure in NXT. You get fans talking about them. This guy's great in the ring. This girl's great in the ring. You got to see this guy. You got to see this girl. I start hearing that, then I always check that out. I always know of the ones that are starting to stand out a little bit. And and you can see that they have huge futures. I like keeping tabs on those type of people because that's how I'm aware that people like Obafemi exist, because I'm not completely oblivious to NXT, but watching that product every week, I would literally rather do anything else, like anything else. That's just an opinion. So when I say NXT is stupid, what I mean is I think NXT is stupid. I'm not saying you have to think that, and I always lecture fans about that, when they find a team they don't like, they suck, or LeBron sucks. Well, look at the all-time NBA record books and statistics and explain to me how he sucks. That's just you being emotional. So when I say NXT sucks, it sucks to me. It's not made for me. But they're doing good ratings. Oftentimes, they have a higher rating than Dynamite does. So there's an audience for it, but that audience isn't me. That's all. But the product is very dumb. I mean, the storylines are not good. The angles are not good. They're silly. Sean's silly. Triple H is way better. I like the black and gold, or whatever the original NXT was that we love so much. The black and gold days. I prefer Triple H's NXT booking style to Sean's. And a lot of the parking lot stuff and the Tony D stuff and some of the random shit they did. Whenever I did tune into the show, I was always like, this just looks dumb. It just looks dumb. It's not for me. It's not for me. Juliet, yes, thank you for the $2. It's official. Mox versus Darby at All Out. Speaking of Darby, I just saw this yesterday on YouTube. I was completely unaware that 4 weeks ago, Darby Allin was on Wild Rides with Steve-O. I love Steve-O. And ironically, I haven't checked out Steve-O's channel in probably a month or two, so I missed it, but it didn't even show up in my feed anywhere. Because usually Steve-O's shit pops up, but I had no idea that Darby Allin was on Steve-O's podcast. No clue. And I saw it yesterday. I haven't had a chance to watch any of it except for the very beginning because Steve-O and Darby know each other, and Darby knows Tony Hawk, and I know Tony Hawk, so I feel like I got a little bit of connection with these guys. But I had no idea he was on the show, and he's going to talk all about Mount Everest and all that stuff. So I can't wait to watch that episode. And apparently it's a month old, and I somehow had no idea. And better yet, none of you guys told me about it. Not you, Mike, not you, Juliet, not you, Sam, Spartan, Zach, none of y'all. You left me out high and dry with no Steve-O Wild Ride. So now I got to catch up on something that's a month old now, but I'm sure that's a very interesting interview, and I want to watch it. I really like Steve-O. I'm so proud of him. That guy was as good as dead. He was going to smoke himself, into a grave, and he somehow not only got clean of all of the life-threatening drugs that he was snorting and huffing and taking on a daily basis, but he's turned his life around into this beautiful world of sobriety where he takes care of animals, and he's got a great wife, and he has fun. He enjoys life. Gives to charity, has a podcast, has a website, has merch, hot sauce, T-shirts, everything, and he just is constantly doing stuff, and he's happy, and he's somewhat healthy, and he's alive, and he shouldn't be, and I just like that. I'm just really happy for him. So anyway, if you haven't checked out the Darby Steve-O episode, check it out. I'm gonna. Mike Witt has got, he's got 3 of them here in a row. Thank you for the first 5, Mike. Thank you. Making sure my voice is good. All right, I think we're good. All right, Mike. Where'd you go? All right. Thank you for the first 5. Hey, Greg and chat. I was so happy to see AJ Lee last night. In my opinion, she was the most underappreciated woman wrestler ever. I don't know if she was underappreciated. I think she was appreciated. I think people appreciated her. I don't remember her being underutilized. I remember her being overutilized. Didn't they make her the GM at one point because Vince just really liked her and saw potential? So I think WWE always knew that she had something special there. I think if anything, at the end, she might have been underappreciated because of her relationship with CM Punk and how sour that relationship went with WWE, and then she had to hang around there, so obviously they weren't going to push her to the moon anymore. But in terms of her run there, I think she did really well. Excuse me, God. I think she did really well, and a lot of fans, like we saw, when fans explode for her the way they did in Chicago last night, that shows you somebody that was beloved, that fans have fond memories of. And if that person was underappreciated, I'm not sure if these memories would be so fond. So I think that she's appreciated for sure. And I'm happy to see that a lot of fans view her as one of their all-time favorites. And that's pretty impressive for someone who's like a little bit more modern and was a part of an era that was so shitty, because it was just tits. That's all it was. Should we call the tits division, the tits and ass division? We already had that though. 5 more from Mike. With Bronson and Braun targeting the Usos, I wonder if Jacob comes to Raw too. Ooh, I'd love a Jacob versus Breaker feud, please. That would be great. That's your War Games right there. Holy crap. Maybe if they did, I feel like the Vision needs another member, right? And if they got one, then you could do Punk and the Samoans versus the Vision and whoever else they have. If there's one more member you can add to the Vision, you can do Punk, the Usos, and Jacob. And Punk can come out in some Samoan war paint or something. That would be so badass. That would be cool. If Jacob came over to Raw. I think Jacob should. I don't know what there is for him to do on SmackDown anymore. And he's starting to... Jacob's tremendous, but I need more from him. Honestly, they've beaten that all gas, no brakes line into the ground. I don't want to hear it again. It's not even a cool catchphrase anymore. You can't say it 6 times per show. You just can't. You're just going to... It'll get old real quick. And I feel like I'm already there with Jacob. I'm over the all gas, no brakes thing. I now find it stupid whenever he says it. So going over to Raw, fresh scenery. Plus, we did get that tease months ago with Breaker and Jacob, and the fans really woke up for that. Like, ooh, whenever that happens, that's going to be awesome. I'd be into it. Totally. Mike's got 10 more for us after that. As happy as I was about AJ coming back, I wish people would stop constantly bringing up the drama of Punk and AEW. Like wrestling. I like wrestling. Enough with the tribalism. Rant over. You're the best, Greg. Hi, Tito. Is Tito? Oh, yeah, there he is. There you are, buddy. I thought I heard you puking a minute ago. You were sitting right here the whole time? Yeah. This week, when it came to the AJ stuff, I didn't see too much about the complaining of Punk and AEW, but one thing I did see is that we just passed the 2-year anniversary or the 3-year anniversary of the Muffin rant when he went off. That just passed, and that moment right there set in motion for what we saw last night. Punk and AJ Lee dancing around the ring together in WWE in Chicago. That is all possible because CM Punk ate a bad muffin on a scrum, and he went off. And that led to a year later having a brawl, and just things never got better. So we had brawl out, brawl in. Punk gets fired. He gets terminated with cause. And just like that, he's back in WWE, and now his wife is with him. But in terms of the online discourse about AJ's return, you must have been seeing more of that than me. Obviously, people are going to mention Punk and AEW forever, but that wasn't, in my mind, getting in the way of the AJ Lee stuff. If anything, I was hearing a lot of fans bitching about not being surprised about the surprise, like I was talking about earlier, and maybe less of the Punk AEW stuff. But we were also right on the top of a couple big anniversaries of, Punk being let go and Punk fighting everybody and all of that. So that's all, people are probably thinking that because of what time of year it is, and maybe that's what was fueling some of the stuff that you saw. Colin Wright, appreciate the 5 from you, man. Riddle is a piece of shit, and thank you to Grotto for going to the charity show in his place. I forgot that he did that. Scotland's finest wrestler. Right on. Is it Grado or Grotto? I think it's Grado. Is it Grado? Yeah. So I didn't have that in my notes earlier, but I'm glad that at least. Oh yeah, I didn't have it in my notes, but I think I did see Simon mention something about that. That's right. I meant to put that tweet in there too. I never did. So thank you for reminding me, Colin Wright. But Riddle, like what we talked about earlier with Riddle, that first initial response, I didn't find that offensive. Like if you're taking him at his word here, he's saying that, hey, you guys had me flying in 3 days earlier and I can't sit in a hotel room. I got other work. I got other things I got to do. So we got to fix that. And then they told him that he needs to pay for it. And then he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. You pay for it. These are things that happen in the world of independent wrestling all the time. You always have a fucking deposit flaked on, or you have the promoter, doing something shady, or there's miscommunication or a misunderstanding or a disagreement about flights or time or pay or whatever. This is nothing new. So this can happen to even the best professional wrestlers with the best reputations. They can run into issues here. So the first Riddle response that we got was pretty tame, and he explained his reasons. First of all, it wasn't a charity event. It was changed to that last minute. Again, I don't know how true that is. That's what he said. He said they booked him for a Thursday flight when he had work on Friday and Saturday, and he wasn't going to sit in a London hotel room until Sunday and do nothing. They booked him a shitty flight, and when they didn't fix the flight and they told him to, he just said, no, just forget it. I'm going to go do my own thing then, and he didn't show. So that in itself didn't even seem that bad. It almost felt quite understandable. But then when he followed up, well, all that profanity and whatnot and the Me Too stuff, you're like, this guy's just off his rocker. Just completely off his rocker, and no sympathy for him at all. And he definitely needs to get some help at some point. Doug Juliet, thanks for the $2. Thank you for the happy birthday message. Appreciate that. Garrett Osborne has 5 for us. I think Timeless Toni Storm versus Wendy Richter would be a fascinating match for Wrestle Dream. Also, happy birthday. She's called out Wendy Richter a few times, but Wendy is old, WrestleMania 1 was 40 years ago. So she's got to be in her 60s. Wendy Richter can't be any younger than 63, I would think, or 65. So that would be a tough match to do. But, back in the day, it was WCW Slamboree. Remember, they used to do like the Legends matches, and they would put them in black and white and run them in black and white. They did that a couple of years. So you could run something like that with Tony and Wendy and make it like an attraction, and then light the ring and just have a nice little light exhibition match here between the two. But how would you book that? Like Toni Storm would have to beat her. If Wendy Richter beat Toni Storm, then Tony's buried. So I don't know how you'd do it unless Wendy was perfectly fine coming in and just getting squashed. I don't know. But that would be fun. Toni Storm versus Wendy Richter at Wrestle Dream or at All Out, and put that head-to-head with Wrestlepalooza. Imagine if Wendy Richter outdrew Wrestlepalooza, outdrew Brock Lesnar and John Cena in 2025. That would be tremendous. All right, let's answer a couple of questions. I'm going to go over here to the that community tab that I posted just for the members a couple of days ago. I'm going to see, I haven't even read any of these. I'm going to see what you guys had to say in here. Few comments in here. A lot of AJ Lee stuff I see. So we already talked about that. Oh, K-Dog's Kennel asks, so we are in September. One of my personal favorite events was Unforgiven. What are some of your favorite Unforgiven matches, or some of your favorite matches from the Unforgiven events? Well, I was at 2 of them. And I wouldn't say the Kennel from Hell was my favorite, but it certainly was memorable. I'd say, I'm trying to remember the actual matches because, in 2001, it was Angle winning the title, right? In 99, it was Triple H winning the title. And then in 98, it was Austin and Dude Love. I guess that would probably stand out as my favorite because I remember I was in the crowd that night and watching Vince get hit with a chair. It was like we were getting closer and closer. In September, we got the Stunner on Raw. Then we got the match with Vince's arm tied behind his back where Dude Love came back and attacked Austin. Now we got the pay-per-view match. Now we got Austin getting hit in the head with a chair. Then he's going to be the guest referee in the match after that. And eventually he gets in the ring with Austin in a steel cage match, but it takes a long time to get there. So I might say Austin and Dude Love because that one just really stands out to me from Unforgiven 1998. I feel like Unforgiven 2000's got some decent matches on it. What would have been the main event there? Kurt Angle and Triple H. And I think maybe Chris Benoit and The Rock. Those stand out as good ones, I think. So I might say those, Kevin. Luke McAllister, 98 from YouTube. The ending of WrestleMania 40 is my favorite moment in all of the WrestleManias I have seen, and one of my favorite moments in wrestling, period. Where does it rank for you, Greg? Well, you haven't even seen all the WrestleManias yet. I have. So where it ranks high, but I'm not exactly sure if it's even in the top 10. If we're talking about all-time moments, not necessarily matches in WrestleMania, just off the top of my head, let's see if I can think of 9 that I would put ahead of WrestleMania 40. Hogan and Andre, obviously. Savage and Steamboat. Brett and Owen. Brett winning the title at WrestleMania 9. The Shawn and Razor ladder match. Undertaker losing the streak. Ric Flair's final match. Austin and Rock, WrestleMania 17. Hogan and Rock, WrestleMania 18. That moment. Austin's retirement, WrestleMania 19. Eddie and Benoit hugging at WrestleMania 20. 21, nah. 22, nah, nothing there. 23, nah. 24 was, I guess nothing there either. WrestleMania 25 is bound to have a match, probably Taker and Shawn, I guess. So, yeah, I can think of moments or matches that I would rank higher than WrestleMania 40, but it is I would definitely rank it as one of my favorite main events of all time because we've had some stinkers. So when it comes to WrestleMania main events, then I think I could fit that into my top 10 for sure. But maybe not overall WrestleMania moments, but it's definitely up there because I loved it. I was happy for Cody. It almost made it worth it. I was at WrestleMania 39 and having to watch him lose and leave the arena that night being like, damn, everything was going so well. And I'm really surprised by that. But Cody had just gotten there. He showed up the year before, but then spent the whole year injured. So he came back at Royal Rumble. Cody had really only had about, 4 months in a WWE ring by the time he was in that WrestleMania 39 match. So you could argue it was too early. It was too early. But WrestleMania 40, he finally got it done, and it's up there with me as well. Chris, does the move to ESPN mean after the Peacock deal is up, the network is history? No, I don't think so. I think the network, I'm hoping, will wind up right here on the YouTube, and that's going to make it real easy to do watch-alongs and whatnot. As a matter of fact, when we did the watch-along of the first ever Nitro this past Thursday, I was able to put the link right down there in the description. You guys can click over on it and follow along almost easier than we could on Peacock. So I'm hoping if the library stays on Peacock, fine, we can deal with that. But I'm really hoping the library leaves and comes to YouTube because that means everybody can access it. And, unless it's behind the premium wall, which is fine. I think if everybody spends any amount of time on YouTube, get premium because not having ads is just wonderful. So I feel like if it was on YouTube, more people could watch almost than Peacock. And I'm hoping that does happen. Tatanani, how would I book the remainder of John Cena's retirement tour? I don't know. Not the way I would want. He's going to have a match with Brock, obviously. But now that John Cena is a babyface again, the only way I would book it is try to get as many, I just want to see this match one more time type of matches as possible. So one more match with AJ, might be nice. Obviously, he's going to work with Brock. And I don't know what his final match would be at this point. I think AJ Styles could be a candidate. There's no reason to do Randy Orton or Cody Rhodes because those matches have happened. It could be Brock again. He could circle back. He could get annihilated by Brock at Wrestlepalooza and then beat Brock in his final match. That could happen. And maybe they tie in that loss to Brock's next next feud. Maybe somebody comes out and interferes or whatever, and then Brock blames them for ruining his chance to retire Cena, and I don't know. But in terms of how I book it, I just want the remaining days that we have left with John to be good. And last night, I'm not too happy about seeing Brock, but last night was very cool to see Sammy and Cena 10 years after that 2015 Open Challenge for the U.S. title, doing the same thing again with the roles reversed, 10 years apart, was cool. Unfortunately, Brock ruined it. Ooh, what are my top 5? Ooh, that's tough. Oh, I see. I should have read these earlier. What are my top? This is from Anthony Matis. Anthony Matis, 2977 on YouTube. What are your top 5 pre-Hogan and pre-Golden Era guys? Okay, so like 63 to 83. Dusty, number 1. Easy. Bruno. Billy Robinson. Ray Stevens. Who'd I say? Dusty, Billy Robinson, Ray Stevens, Bruno Sammartino, and God, I don't know. I feel like I could do a few. If I had to pick one, Bockwinkel. Definitely Bockwinkel. So those are my top 5 pre-Hogan and Golden Era guys, if I had to pick. JJ Leg, what would I choose for an AEW WWE card? 1 men's, 1 women's, 1 tag, and then a wild card. You've got Danielson, Gunther, Tony, and Rhea, Brodito, and Fraxium, and Ospreay, and Ilya Dragunov. For Tony Storm, Tony and Rhea would probably be pretty badass, I would have to say. But I also think Tony and... Oh, man. Tony and... No, they've wrestled. See, Tony's wrestled a lot of these girls. I might go Tony and Rhea as well, but I feel like that's easy. I feel like I can feel like a much more compelling opponent for her. Maybe Tony Storm and Becky Lynch, I guess, could be fun. Their back and forth, I think, would be awesome. If I'm coming up with someone for Gunther, Powerhouse Hobbs, maybe, for Gunther. Opponents for Brodito, or anyone in AEW, I suppose. Doesn't have to be just them. If I'm thinking a tag match, I might go Brodito because they don't have a history with anybody in WWE. Brodito and Street Profits. Brodito and Street Profits. Let's go with that. And Will Ospreay, one-on-one with, I would say, Dragunov would be a good option. Maybe Dragon Lee or something. I don't know. I needed more time to think about these. That's the best I can do right now. It's been a long podcast. But I'll try to put up a post every week whenever we do our nighttime streams, because I might not have time for these for the daytime ones. But for our nighttime podcasts, I'll put up a post every week. And then next time, I wanted to start slow just with the members. And then next time, we'll do a post for everyone along with the members. So if there's anything else you want to ask, hit me with it before we get out of here on this very, very long podcast tonight. But thank you to everyone who hung out with us all night. And if you haven't hit that thumbs up button, that would be appreciated. Yeah, Rollins and Ospreay would be wonderful. Gunther and Swerve would be fun. That's true. I thought about Charlotte and Timeless Tony Storm. I feel like they wrestled already, but Timeless Tony is much different than former Tony, WWE Tony. A couple more super chats I got to get at some point. Let me get back to those. After Garrett, I got that one about Wendy Richter. I know there's a couple more coming in. Here's one from Zane G. Thanks for the 5, bro. Happy birthday, Greg. Time for some apple pie. No, I am not eating the apple pie. I will not eat it. I know I'm very weird for not liking apple pie, but I don't like cooked apples. They're gross. They're mushy and weird, and I don't like them. I don't like them. I'll eat a raw apple all day. cut me up an apple, I'll eat every damn piece of it. But I don't want it cooked in brown sugar. It's just not good to me. I don't know why. I'm a weirdo. Total weirdo. Mike Witt has got 10 more. Happy B-Day. You are almost as old as Greg Gagne. I'm getting there. Maybe you can become a high flyer someday. Seriously, though, happy B-Day to the coolest YouTuber around. Good mic work. WWE president like Jack Tunney. Could you imagine if I was WWE president and I had to show up on TV occasionally to make rulings? I would want to do it just like he did, too. I wouldn't want to be like in the ring on Raw. I would want to be behind my desk just making some random announcement about a championship match. Juliet, you can't wait for football later today. It's nighttime. Oh, it's Sunday. That's right. Yeah, you're talking about like tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow is a lot of football. Things kick off. I guess NFL's already underway as of Thursday night and last night. So, yeah. I am not on any fantasy teams anymore. I retired 2 years ago, and I've stayed retired. I will not join back up with that. I need to know, like, I have not been a subscriber of the Red Zone channel in like 10 years. How much does it cost these days? I did see that they're adding commercials now, which sucks. I remember the guy that does it, that Scott Hansen or whatever, he read one of my tweets during one of the broadcasts one time years ago. But I thought about, I'm like, I'm about to cancel my cable. Maybe I should pick up the Red Zone channel and watch it. So where do you get it these days? How much does it cost? Does anybody have that info for me? Thinking about it. Okay, yeah, Juliet, it's 12. Yeah, you're on the East Coast. Yeah, if you're on the East Coast, it's after midnight now, so thank you so much for hanging out. I really wish we could do a classic watch-along tomorrow, Sunday, on the 7th, because September 7th is the anniversary, or is the date, I should say, of Ground Zero in your house, the very first ever 3-hour in your house from 1997. And the 7th is the day it falls on. I just remember a lot of dates from 97 and 98. And I remember Ground Zero was the day after my birthday, September 7th in 1997. So if I was home tomorrow night, that's definitely the show we would have been watching. But we're not going to watch it. Maybe we'll watch it in 2 weeks. We'll see. It was not a very good show. A lot of stuff going on in WWE's life at the time. But that's definitely what we would have watched tomorrow if I was here. Okay, so the NFL Premium Plus app, I believe, has Red Zone. Like, I'm used to watching NFL Red Zone, like, on my TV. So how would I find it now? How would I get it now? I think back in the day, you had to subscribe to the NFL Network or NFL Game Day to get all the games, right? And you could flip channels for all the games. And then one of the channels was the Red Zone, where you could just watch all of the scores. And I found myself all the way as far back as North Carolina. I remember like 2009 having this and watching, and I found myself enjoying the Red Zone channel more than the games because you wouldn't miss anything. You saw every single score, and I really liked that. So maybe I can resubscribe to that. I'd like to know how much it costs. I don't know. Mike Witt, appreciate the 5. Favorite jobbers, Greg? Yours are Mike Sharp and George South from WCW. Iron Mike Sharp was probably my favorite jobber. Yeah. Also a fan of Dusty Wolf. Dwayne Gill, who got a second run, actually. Oh, Juliet, what, Red Zone is on YouTube? It is? Well, you got to pay for it, right? There's no way Red Zone's free. So, like, my question is, how do I get Red Zone and how much does it cost? I guess I could just Google that shit, right? That's what Google is for. I suppose I could do my own research on this. I'm being lazy. I'm asking you guys to solve problems for me. How do I get the Red Zone channel? NFL Red Zone with NFL Premium Plus. I don't know. I guess through NFL.com somehow. Okay, here it is. $6.99 a month for that. For premium. Premium is $14.99 a month. Okay. So NFL Premium is only $14.99 a month. See, I did it all by myself, guys. It's right there. $14.99 a month. You get the Red Zone. You get game replays, everything from NFL Plus. live and local primetime, regular and postseason games. So basically, to watch every NFL game, it only costs you about $15 a month. The game packages were so much more expensive, I thought, back then. I remember paying a couple $100 for the game day thing and the Red Zone channel. So this seems like a pretty good deal. Yeah, I might sign up just so I can watch Red Zone tomorrow. Huh. Well, I'll be damned, huh? So you just need the NFL Premium app, and that'll give you the NFL Network plus NFL Red Zone, but it doesn't look like it gives you every game. Doesn't look like you can go to every game on this. It says game replays, full condensed, and all 22 coaches film. I don't even know what that means. And then everything from NFL Plus. What does NFL Plus have? Just the network. Okay, so if I want to see games that are like just on ESPN or whatever, or just on like they had the game on YouTube last night with the Chargers and the Chiefs, right? I still access it there. But you know what? All you really need is the Red Zone. And if the Red Zone only costs $14.99 per month, is it billed annually, or can you just cancel? Can I just have it for the football season and then cancel it? Is that what people do? Like if you're subscribed to NFL Plus, do you have to have it all year, or can you just subscribe for football season? Feels like they're losing money if you're only getting 4 months of shit. Okay. It's just like the WWE ESPN thing. I'm like trying to think of like, how do I do this? What do I do? How does it work? I don't know. Help me out. Mike Witt. Oh, I already got that one. Sorry. Worst wrestler, Lawrence Taylor or Dennis Rodman. Neither one are terribly horrible. I'd go Dennis for being the worst. Lawrence Taylor did pretty well in that match with Bam Bam. But Rodman was doing some things. Rodman wasn't a complete embarrassment. Oh, yeah, NFL or MLB Network has blackouts. That sucks. Yeah, so if Red Zone channel is only $15 a month now, that's worth it. I'll get that. I'll sign up tonight. And I got to cancel cable. I don't need cable anymore. No more cable. And then if I get NFL, if I get that stupid NFL premium shit, I can watch that on my television, right? On my color TV, I can watch it. God, I'm going to fall so far behind. I haven't even done like anything AI related. I don't have ChatGPT. I don't even know what it is. I don't know. I mean, I know you can do everything on it, but like it's an app. I get it, right? But I don't have it, and it costs money, I think, but I don't know how much, and I don't know what you do on it, and I don't know. So like there's so much shit that I'm not going to get. And then like all the streaming stuff, the WWE crap and all the different platforms they're on, and the ESPN subscription, and whether or not you can get that with your cable provider or whatnot, it's just all so confusing, and it's only going to get worse in 12 years. When I am 60, how the hell am I going to, how am I going to do this? How am I going to keep up with this? We've got an app now not us, but there's an app now. It's called In Kind, where you can pay your tabs at a restaurant using your phone. When they bring you their bill, it's usually a computerized bill, and we use the Toast POS system at our place. A lot of places do, but it probably works for other operating systems as well. But if you bring a bill to the table, there's like a check number or a reference number on that bill. They can go into their app, plug in that number, and then pay the bill right through their phone. And before, my boss, did not tell me he started this program. And so the first few nights, I'm sitting there at the front door and I'm watching customers leave, and I'm like chasing them down the street. You guys walk down here, and they're like, no, we paid on the app. And I'm like, what app? And then they tell me, I go and talk to, I was like, Jeff, you didn't even tell me about this app shit we're doing. And anyway, point is the technology is just going to keep getting more and more. And at some point, all we're going to have to do is think about paying our bill, and it will. Just think about it real hard. It'll trigger the microchip, which tells your phone to Apple Pay it, and now you just have to think about it. You're going to start getting ads on the inside of your eyelids We're this close from being like 30% robot. And I'm going to be lost. Hopefully by then we can 3D print organs and I can live to be 200 years old. We'll see. I think some of you younger fans have a better chance of that than I do. They're going to figure out how to live forever literally 2 years after I die. They'll figure it out, but I'll be too little too late. And all you guys will get to live forever while I'm dead. But luckily for me, there are thousands upon thousands of hours of me talking on the internet, and that's here to stay. I'll never die. All right, I think that is going to be a wrap on tonight's show. I'm really happy. We had a long podcast. I took my time. I was in no rush tonight. What did we go, 3 hours and 45 minutes? Jesus Christ. Normally our Saturday daytime podcasts are only 2 hours. So we went almost double the amount of time, and I'm glad that we did because we had a lot to talk about, and it was a big week. It was a big week. So thank you again, everyone, for hanging out with me tonight. I really appreciate it. And the next time you are going to see me is on Monday night. We're going to be up here after Raw for a full show review, and we'll talk about, I guess, what is going to be the mixed tag becoming official between Rollins and Becky and Punk and Lee. So we'll get all of that probably officialized for Wrestlepalooza on Monday night, and also we'll probably get more AJ Lee. We'll probably hear her speak. We'll probably hear her cut a promo. There will probably be a confrontation with Becky Lynch. The Wise Man might be back. There's lots of things that we could possibly see on Monday, so we will be here to talk about it then. Have a great rest of your evening, and have a great Saturday night and a great rest of your weekend. Thanks again for all the comments, the well wishes, the birthday wishes, all that stuff. I really appreciate it. And I'll catch you guys in just a couple of days for the Raw review. Have a good one. Peace.